Chapter 110. After destroying the Spirit Spring Sect, Jun Changshao had thought that the Sacred Spring Sect would come to find trouble with him. But he did not expect it to be in the form of a letter of challenge. That's right. If Wei Yishi did not play tricks at the beginning, and used this method to resolve the grievances between the two sects, how could he destroy the sect? Sect Master, Li Qingyang said solemnly, to be able to become an inner disciple of the Sacred Spring Sect, your talent and strength must be outstanding. Jun Changshao touched his chin and said, since you asked me to send a letter of challenge, as the sect master, if I fight, wouldn't I be a laughingstock? Qingyang. He paused and said, you will accept the challenge? Yes, Li Qingyang said. Jun Changshao said, this battle is related to the glory of the sect. No matter what, you must win for me. Li Qingyang shouted. Disciple will do his best. In fact, he was quite pressured. After all, the opponent was an inner disciple of the fifth-rate Sacred Spring Sect, and may not be weaker than him in terms of talent and strength. Jun Changshao clasped his fingers together and said, what I want is to win. Yes, Li Qingyang said loudly. 3 days later, disciple will win. Jun Changshao waved his hand and threw over 10 chi-gathering pills and 3 spirit stones, saying, don't worry about anything these 2 days. Cultivate well for the battle 3 days later. The 10 spirit stones were obtained from the sect's martial arts competition, and he was unwilling to use them. Now that the Sacred Spring Sect came to fight, he did not hesitate to give Li Qingyang 3 spirit stones, hoping that he can become stronger in the shortest time possible, so that he can have a 100% chance of winning. Li Qingyang took the spirit stones and pills, and said with a firm gaze, disciple will not let the sect master down. With that, he left the hall to cultivate. Lu Qianqian leaned on the door and said lightly, why don't you let me fight? Jun Changshao said, Qingyang is steady and can see the big picture. I hope that he can become stronger and more confident to assist me in managing the Ironbone sect. Lu Qianqian said lightly, so, this is the reason that the sect master found for you to be a hands-off shopkeeper in the future? Jun Changshao clutched his chest and collapsed on the back of the chair, pretending to be weak, saying, I can't, my heart hurts. Lu Qianqian rolled her eyes at him and said, the Holy Spring Sect came to fight this time. It shows that they care about the Spirit Spring Sect. Our Ironbone sect, and such a sect can be considered to have formed a grudge. Jun Changshao stopped his awkward act and spread out his hands. As long as they don't play tricks, I don't mind playing with them. If these words were heard by outsiders, they would definitely be speechless. Where is he responsible for taking care of it? Sect Master, please send a few disciples to assist this old man in reclaiming the wasteland. Elder Wei, who had just settled down, did not intend to rest. Instead, he began to perform his duties. Jun Changshao called Su Xiaomo, Tian Qi, Li Fei and others to assist in reclaiming the wasteland. In just half a day, more than 10 acres of wasteland had been plowed by them. The soil was soft and suitable for planting. Elder Wei carefully took out the medicinal seeds. Then he hunched his body and planted them step by step. Elder Wei, Su Xiaomo said, we'll help you. Elder Wei waved his hand and said, planting medicinal seeds requires a sincere heart to nurture medicinal herbs that gather the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. You little kids are too impatient. Let this old man do it alone. The Ironbone disciples were speechless. Since they were not allowed to help, they left the back mountain and went to cultivate. It was not until dusk came that Elder Wei planted medicinal seeds in more than 10 acres of land. The distance between each medicinal herb and the depth of the hole was very particular. If a peer saw this, they would praise him sincerely professional. Since he had hired Elder Wei, Jun Changshao did not ask any more. Instead, he sat cross-legged in his room and pulled out the alchemy pavilion. After a series of clinking sounds, he refined 300 meridian unlocking pills. This thing together with Yi Jin Jing will definitely open meridians easily. I'll let Dudu try it tomorrow. As he muttered, he waved his hand and took out a spirit stone. Li Qingyang needed to cultivate. He also needed to cultivate because the battle with the Sacred Spring Sect meant that he would have to face a fifth-rate sect. His cultivation must improve as soon as possible. How do I use it? Holding the spirit stone, Sect Master Jun was dumbfounded. The system said, it's the same as communicating with the crystal core. Communicate with the spirit stone, and draw out the spiritual energy inside. Slowly refine it, and integrate it into the cyclone. Oh, Jun Changxiao did as he was told. When his consciousness entered the spirit stone, he felt the majestic spiritual energy inside, and could not help but exclaim, it's so pure. Nonsense. The system said, if it's not pure, can it be 10,000 taels for one? Jun Changxiao ignored it, and began to guide the spiritual energy in the spirit stone. It gradually formed a soft line and flew out, entering his body through his nostrils. Yi Jingjing activated, and began to refine it slowly. After a night, the spirit stone in his hand turned from a crystal to a dull gray. The cyclone in Jun Changxiao's dantian was obviously stronger than before. He secretly exclaimed, if I absorb 4 or 5 more spirit stones, breaking through from the 8th grade to the 9th grade will definitely be a piece of cake. Jun Changxiao had estimated that even if he took qi gathering pills and cultivated continuously, it would take at least half a month. Now that he had spirit stones, he could break through in 2 or 3 days. It was simply too terrifying. The system said, spirit stones are the most important cultivation resource in the falling star continent. Many cultivators have toiled their entire lives for them, and even lost their lives. How do I obtain spirit stones? Jun Changxiao asked. The system said, either find a mine or find a spirit master to refine it from a high-grade crystal core. Jun Changxiao rubbed his chin and said, I already have a medicinal master. It seems that I have to find a time to go down the mountain and hire a spirit master. The system poured cold water on him. Spirit master is an extremely rare profession. Even the lowest level of spirit apostle is less than 10 in the entire Azure Sun County. If the host really wants to hire one, then be prepared to take out 1,000,000 taels of courage. 1,000,000? That's daylight robbery. The next day, Jun Changxiao called Lu Wanxia over and said, Duda, what level are you at now? When are you going to break through your meridians? Lu Wanxia said, Sect Master, I'm at the 4th stage of the channel opening stage, and have already condensed spiritual energy. I can break through my meridians at any time. Her culinary skills were superb, but her spiritual root was only at the common grade. She also had to be responsible for the meals of her seniors, so she had only reached the 4th meridian when she entered the sect with Yi Xingchen. Here, Jun Changxiao said, this is a channel opening pill. It can help you successfully open your meridians. Lu Wanxia took the pill and stared with her big round eyes. She said in disbelief, channel opening pill? That's a very expensive pill. Sect Master, are you really going to give it to me? Seeing the little girl's cute appearance, Jun Changxiao really wanted to pinch her cheeks. Hurry up and break through. Lu Wanxia didn't leave. Instead, she sat cross-legged on the floor of the main hall and took the channel opening pill. She operated the body metamorphose scripture. The result, she opened her meridians. To be exact, when the little girl gathered her spiritual energy to break through the blocked meridians, she easily opened them. Hoo-hoo! Her spiritual energy passed through the 5th main meridian. Lu Wanxia's wrist condensed a 5th ring of light. She couldn't contain her joy and said, Sect Master, I've opened my 5th meridian. She seemed to be too excited. She jumped up and threw herself at Jun Changxiao. Shua! Sect Master Jun took a sidestep and perfectly dodged. Then he heard a pung sound. The petite Lu Wanxia fell to the ground with her arms and legs spread out. This was definitely an instinctive dodging reaction, formed after practicing martial arts for a long time. Lu Wanxia stood up and rubbed her forehead. Her eyes were full of tears. She said pitifully, Sect Master, why didn't you catch me? P.S. Thank you for the gifts. Students who have tickets don't hide them. Throw them all at me. I definitely won't avoid them like the single dog Jun Changxiao. Chapter 111. With the combination of the meridian unlocking pill and body metamorphose scripture, Lu Wanxia easily opened her 5th meridian. After that, Jun Changshao gathered all the disciples who had not reached stage 12. There were not many of them, only 13. 4 of them were at stage 10, and 9 were at stage 11. It was not that they did not work hard enough, but that they were too unlucky. Sometimes, even with the body metamorphose scripture success rate, they would fail continuously, so the gap between them gradually widened. Seeing that most of their fellow disciples had reached stage 12, the 13 disciples blamed themselves and felt depressed. They felt ashamed of the support the sect leader had given them. Jun Changshao could see this, so he gave each of them 3 meridian unlocking pills and encouraged them. Failure for a while does not mean failure forever. Work hard and you can do it. The system said. The host is becoming more and more like the sect leader. What was this saying? Was I not like the sect leader before? Before, I was very weak and did not have the demeanor of a sect leader. Now that my cultivation has increased, my body has become stronger, and my charisma has been revealed. I really did have the look of a sect leader. But what were the flaws? They lacked the demeanor of someone who had been in a high position for a long time. This kind of temperament was not easy to cultivate. First, the sect leader had to be a true expert. Second, the sect had to be strong. Even if it could not dominate the continent, it had to be powerful. Someone who had been in a high position for a long time was nothing. Since I, Jun Changshao, came to the Falling Star continent, I will be the strongest sect leader, who controls the world and lies drunk on beauty's knees. The system complained, "Single dog, go wash up and sleep." After the 13 disciples took the meridian unlocking pills, 9 of them broke through to stage 12, and the other 4 entered stage 11. What was this? A 100% success rate. The next day, after learning that all the disciples had opened their meridians, Jun Changshao said happily, "When we recruit new disciples, as long as they gather enough spirit energy, opening their meridians will be a small matter." Sinful Self and Xing Chun went out to train. Otherwise, if I gave them a few pills each, they would definitely improve greatly. The combination of body metamorphose scripture and meridian unlocking pills could allow a meridian opening martial artist to have a 100% success rate. This was very terrifying. If this spread out, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. Unfortunately, no one knew. In the eyes of many high-level cultivators, Iron Bone was like a lowly ant, slowly climbing up a mountain. The day before the battle, Li Qingyang sat cross-legged in the center of the spiritual energy array. He focused his mind and circulated the tendon-changing scripture. His body was shrouded in layers of spiritual energy, like a cocoon wrapping him up. Su Xiaoma and the others knew that their second senior brother was going to fight with the inner disciples of the Sacred Spring Sect, so they didn't enter the array formation for 2 days, fearing that they would accidentally disturb the battle. Plop! After a short while, the last spirit stone fell to the ground with a dull color, because all of its energy had been sucked dry. Li Qingyang took a deep breath and absorbed all the spiritual qi in his body. The moment he opened his eyes, 2 rays of light flashed. 4th grade martial disciple, there shouldn't be any problems. During the martial arts competition, he had already become a rank 1 martial disciple. After returning for a while, he finally became a rank 2 martial disciple. Now, with the help of spirit stones and qi-gathering pills, he had advanced 2 levels in 2 days. As the number 1 genius of Qingyang City, Li Qingyang's aptitude was unquestionable. However, the reason why his cultivation was slow before was that he had to help the sect leader deal with a lot of internal affairs, which indirectly delayed a lot of cultivation time. He didn't have any complaints because this was the sect leader's trust in him. He could only do his best to do everything well. Night came. Li Qingyang walked out of the array formation and entered the training room. He began the final shaping of his body for the battle with the disciples of the Sacred Spring Sect. On the roof of the main hall, Jun Changshao sat on the ridge with his elbows on his legs and his palms folded together. He held his chin with the back of his hand and said, "Qingyang, you've worked hard during this time." Lu Qianqian was cold and indifferent. Xiao Ziji was decadent and depressed. Su Xiaoma was naughty and carefree. All the disciples were talents. However, a sect couldn't rely on the sect leader alone. The steady Li Qingyang was undoubtedly what Jun Changshao needed and liked the most. The reason why he let him fight this time was because he hoped to gather enough prestige to better assist him in leading the Sect's junior brothers. The next day, the sky had just brightened. Lu Wancher cooked early and made a sumptuous breakfast. Ma Yongning and the two assassins brought it to the dining table. After a while, the disciples came to eat. Li Qingyang also came. Although he cultivated for a night in the shaping room, he looked full of energy. Su Xiaoma walked over with a bowl in his hand and said, "Junior brother wishes second senior brother to defeat the disciples of the Sacred Spring Sect and spread the might of my iron bone." As he spoke, he drank the soup in one gulp. Ha! He quickly stuck out his tongue and exhaled. Hot! Hot! The other disciples also came to give their blessings. The atmosphere in the cafeteria suddenly became warm. Lu Wancher, who was wearing an apron, poked her head out from the side of the kitchen. She shook the spoon in her hand and said with a smile, "I especially woke up early today to make a sumptuous meal for second senior brother." Plop! Everyone fell down together. Li Qingyang staggered and supported himself on the table. Black lines appeared on his forehead. A child's words carry no harm. A child's words carry no harm. Not long after, Jun Changshao walked in. After eating a sumptuous meal with the disciples, he brought Li Qingyang, Lu Qianqian, and a few other main disciples on the road without any worries. Yaoyang City Spirit Spring Mountain. The first time he came, Jun Changshao destroyed the Spirit Spring Sect. The second time, he accepted the challenge. He's here. Ironbone really accepted the challenge. I thought that guy wouldn't dare to come against the Sacred Spring Sect. Jun Changshao walked up the mountain with a few disciples and saw many martial artists in different attire gathered outside the ruins of the Spirit Spring Sect. He didn't go down the mountain these few days, so he didn't know that the news of the Sacred Spring Sect challenging his sect had already spread in Azure Sun County. The various sects and martial artists who received the news naturally wouldn't miss it, and came to Yaoyang City as early as yesterday. Many sects of the 100 Sect Alliance also came. For example, the Patriarch of the Tiger's Howl School, and the Iron Fist Gang leader, who was punched out by Xiao Ziji. When they saw Jun Changshao and the Iron Bone disciples coming up, the corners of their mouths curled up, and a faint sneer appeared. "Brat! Fortunately you left the Alliance. The Sacred Spring Sect is magnanimous, and didn't make a fuss about it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have let you go." Hee. Jun Changshao smiled and said, "It's just a challenge, but it's even livelier than the grand tournament." This seat is a bit surprised. Sect Master Jun, the Patriarch of the Tiger's Howl School, lightly said, "The people of the Sacred Spring Sect are waiting for you at the Spirit Spring Sect's martial field. After you go in, they might give you a shock." After the meeting in Azure Sun City, the 100 Sect Alliance would definitely not welcome Jun Changshao. The reason they came this time was naturally to see how he would be bullied by a fifth-rate sect. Thinking about how arrogant that guy was at the Star Moon Pavilion, and the panicked expression he would show when facing the Sacred Spring Sect, the elders of the various sects immediately smiled. The Spirit Spring Sect is just a pile of ruins. How could it scare this seat? Jun Changshao led his disciples and walked forward. As soon as they entered, they saw 3 chairs placed in front of the collapsed main hall. There were 3 people sitting on the chairs. In the middle was a middle-aged man with a resolute face. His hands were clasped together, and his head was slightly lowered. The person on the left was also a middle-aged man. He supported his face with one hand, and his expression was slightly gloomy. On the right was a man with wrinkles on his head. One leg was crossed over the other, and he was picking his ear with his pinky finger, looking very sloppy. Although the 3 had different appearances, they had one thing in common. They were all emitting a vigorous aura, and their cultivation was definitely not weaker than the elders of the Blue Mountain Sect. Jun Changshao touched his nose and thought, if these 3 wore the uniform of the Navy and put on the long cloak of justice, they would be the 3 admirals of the Navy. Chapter 112. The auras of the 3 martial artists sitting in the ruins of the main hall were thick, giving off a very strong feeling. Even the air became oppressive. They were the 3rd elder, 4th elder, and fifth elder of the Holy Spring Sect. Their cultivation was at the Wuzong level. In this battle, they had sent out 3 martial ancestor elders. It seemed that they wanted to tell the world that the Spirit Spring Sect, which was related to the Sacred Spring Sect, could not be destroyed so easily. On the right side of the 3 stood a group of martial artists in blue robes. They were the disciples of the Holy Spring Sect. On the left side, there were many martial artists, including the Lord of Green Sun City, Xie Guangquan, the Alliance Master of the 100 Sect Alliance, Qin Haoran, and the 6th-rate Sect Master of Green Sun County. What a great lineup! No wonder the Patriarch of the Tiger's Howl Sect had to stand outside. Xie Guangquan secretly said, Sect Master Jun, the Holy Spring Sect sent 3 elders this time. It looks like a battle, but in reality, they are pressuring you. I really can't help you. A 5th-rate sect was a colossus. Although he was the Lord of Green Sun City, he was powerless. Qin Haoran and the Sect Master of the 6th-rate sect looked at Jun Changxiao with a mocking gaze. Little brat, facing this lineup, can you still be as arrogant as the Star Moon Pavilion? Jun Changxiao stopped outside the martial arts field with his disciples. The stone slabs in front of him were burnt black. Wasn't it because he set fire to the Spirit Spring Sect? The 3rd elder, who was sitting in the middle seat, slowly raised his head and said, You are the leader of the Iron Bone Sect? His eyes were sharp, and his voice was loud like a bell. Waves of spirit aura filled the air. Jun Changxiao straightened his chest, put his hands behind his back and calmly said, Yes. The disciples standing behind him, except for Lu Qianqian, also held their heads high. There was not the slightest trace of fear on their faces. What was the Iron Bone Sect's first motto? To be a man of iron bone, to do things of iron bone. Although there were 3 Wuzong-level experts in front of them, and the aura that filled the air made them feel extremely oppressed, their iron bones would not be bent because of this. Xie Guangquan was secretly impressed. The Iron Bones clan, they have iron bones. Even Jun Changxiao himself, facing the 3 Wuzong masters, finally understood why the first sect leader named the sect the Iron Bone Sect. At that moment, the great soul of sect leader Wang, who had failed to break out of prison after visiting a brothel, seemed to have appeared in the sky. He opened his wide arms and poured out the Iron Bones buff, allowing them to face a strong enemy without panicking. Humph. Alliance Master Qin sneered and said to himself, pretending to be calm. He thought differently from Xie Guangquan. He thought that Jun Changxiao and the Iron Bone disciples were only pretending to be strong. They must be very scared and nervous. Pretending? It didn't exist. If the situation permitted, sect leader Jun would play mahjong with his disciples. The 3rd elder of the Holy Spring Sect clasped his fingers together, and a looming spiritual power appeared. He said in a deep voice, The Holy Spring Sect was also destroyed by you? Spiritual might rippled. If it was an ordinary person, feeling the heavy aura, they would definitely be paralyzed on the ground. Jun Changxiao said disapprovingly, Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and call Verger Glider out to fight with my disciples. You think you're awesome just because you have a strong aura? If you have the ability, come and kill me. The 3rd elder wouldn't kill him, because this was an open battle. If he ignored his status and killed him, he would be ridiculed by other sections. Jun Changxiao had calculated this point, which was why he was able to meet his gaze without fear. No matter how awesome you are, your aura and eyes can't kill people. The system said. If it's a martial emperor, looking back and smiling can make the host collapse into nothingness. The corner of Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. A martial emperor looking back and smiling shyly at him like a woman. That scene is definitely a new material for Ghost Beast. Don't talk nonsense. Xie Guangquan covered his face and collapsed. This kid dares to say anything. Alliance Master Qin and the other sect leaders smiled even more. Yes, this is the arrogance. Don't be afraid, keep it up. TSK Tisk. The 5th elder on the right grinned. A 9th-rate sect leader is quite arrogant. No wonder he dared to kill an outer disciple of the Holy Spring Sect. The words outer disciple made Xie Guangquan understand that the Holy Spring Sect's trip was to tell the world, not for the destruction of the Holy Spring Sect, but for the death of their disciples. The other sects have nothing to say about how to deal with the Iron Bone. Jun Changshao was quite surprised. The outer disciple you said is the patriarch and elder of the Holy Spring Sect. Yes. The fifth elder said. TSK. Jun Changshao said. I heard that the Holy Spring Sect is a famous righteous sect. I thought that Wei Yishi, who colluded with the bandits and assassins, was just a temporary worker. I didn't expect him to be a disciple of your sect. The third elder's face darkened. Of course. Jun Changshao said again. If the Holy Spring Sect thinks that Jun is slandering people, I can take out the letter of Wei Yishi colluding with the bandit Zhou Tianba as evidence. The three were silent. The fourth elder, who had not spoken from beginning to end, said lightly, Wei Yishi and his brothers were just former outer disciples. They were expelled many years ago. Their collusion with the bandits is their own business. It has nothing to do with the Holy Spring Sect. A fifth-rate sect also wants face. Jun Changshao cupped his hands. You discovered the bad behavior of the four outer disciples early on, and expelled them. The Holy Spring Sect is indeed a famous righteous sect. Jun admires you. The corners of everyone's mouth twitched. Xie Guangquan secretly said. This kid's mouth is really powerful. No wonder Situ Wang vomited blood on the spot. Now that Wei Yishi had been labeled as expelled, the Sacred Spring Sect naturally could not use the fact that their outer court disciple was killed to look for trouble. Sect leader Jun, the third elder said lightly, it's clearly written in the letter of challenge that the inner disciple of the Holy Spring Sect, Mo Shangfei, challenged you, not an iron-bone disciple. Jun Changshao shrugged. I'm the leader of a sect. It's not honorable to win against a disciple of your sect, so it's the fairest for disciples to fight each other. Qin Haoran looked at him with disdain, as if you can really win against an inner disciple of the Holy Spring Sect. The three elders of the Holy Spring Sect looked at each other, and quickly reached a tacit agreement. The third elder said, if that's the case, then let my sect's disciples experience the skills of the Iron Bone faction's disciples. Shangfei. He waved and said, let's fight. Yes. The disciple named Mo Shangfei walked out. This person was tall and strong. His exposed muscles were very solid. At first glance, one could tell that his strength was extraordinary. Jun Changshao thought to himself, what's his cultivation? The system said, an 8th grade martial disciple, about 17,000 pounds of pure physical strength. So high. Jun Changshao frowned. The previous leader of the Long Blade School, a 9th grade martial disciple, only had a strength of 14,000 pounds. The Holy Spring Sect's disciple was 1 grade lower, but his strength was 3,000 pounds higher. Qingyang, he said in a low voice, the opponent is not weak, be careful. Li Qingyang walked to the center of the training field, a few meters away from Mo Shangfei. He cupped his hands and said, Li Qingyang of the Iron Bone School. The Sacred Spring Sect's fifth elder picked his ears and said indifferently, Sect head Jun. The disciple my sect sent out is an 8th grade martial disciple. You sent out a 4th grade martial disciple. Aren't you deliberately sending yourself to be abused? Chapter 113. Rank 8 martial disciple? Su Xiaomo, Tian Qi, and the other disciples' expressions changed. The difference between rank 4 and rank 8 was too big. Could second senior brother win? Lu Chanqian frowned and said in a low voice, Sect Master, the opponent is too strong. Let me fight. She didn't think that second junior brother could win with Mo Shangfei's strength. Jun Changshao took out a chair from his interspatial ring and sat down. He tapped his fingers on the armrest and said, You are the senior sister. No matter when or where, you must have confidence in your junior brother. Lu Chanqian was silent. She stood behind with the other junior brothers. Li Qingyang's talent is not bad, but Mo Shangfei of the Holy Spring Sect also has a high-grade spirit root. He has no chance of winning. Iron Bone is the only one who can take out this disciple, right? Alliance Master Qin and the other sect masters sneered. This was such a good opportunity. If they didn't mock Iron Bone, how could they vent their anger at Star Moon Pavilion? Of course, they didn't think that Li Qingyang was bad, but with the same talent, Mo Shangfei was much better than the other in terms of resources and mentors. If this number one genius of Qingyang City joined Blue Mountain Sect, he would definitely be an inner disciple. His achievements would definitely be better than now. Sigh, such a waste of good talent. The elders of the various sects were regretful. But in reality, they were just mocking Ironbone and Jun Changxiao in different ways. Xie Guangquan thought. 2 months ago, Li Qingyang was only a 10th stage meridian opening. Now he is a rank 4 martial disciple. His growth speed is already not bad. You guys are really blind. They weren't blind. They were being black for the sake of being black. Jun Changxiao didn't care about other people's mockery. He looked into the distance and saw a flash of light. He thought, Sinful Ji is also here. Yes, Xiao Ziji was also here. He was crouching on a high slope 800 meters away. His body was wrapped in the grass, and one of his eyes was stuck to the lens. The muzzle of the Type 88 sniper rifle was already aimed at Mo Shangfei. When he was training in the wild, Xiao Ziji heard about the battle and rushed over in advance. He had been hiding in the bushes for a day and a night. Even the 3 Wuzong experts who came later did not expect a phantom sniper to be hiding in the dark. Sect leader, the gun was ready. Whoever you point at, this disciple will beat them up. Yi Xingchen lay on a rock far away and thought to himself, if I didn't use the Taishian Sutra to conceal your presence, do you really think no one would notice you lying in the grass? Sacred Spring Sect Mo Shangfei. Mo Shangfei indifferently reported his name. His tone and eyes were full of disdain. He had heard of Li Qingyang before, but he did not take him seriously. After all, if he joined an unrated sect, he would definitely be slowly assimilated into trash. After reporting each other's names, the battle was supposed to start. However, Third Elder said, Sect leader Jun, fists and feet have no eyes. If my disciple injures your disciple, please forgive him. Was he trying to tell him that the guy would be very fierce in his attacks? Jun Changxiao shook his head and cupped his hands. If my disciple injures your disciple, please forgive him. Qin Haoran and the others rolled their eyes. A rank 4 martial artist injuring a rank 8 martial artist was definitely a joke. Third Elder was too lazy to argue with Jun Changxiao. Instead, he said indifferently, you may begin. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Mo Shangfei took a big stride forward. He gathered spiritual energy in his right fist and punched with great force. It was very fast and very sudden. Bang! Li Qingyang did not have time to dodge. He hastily crossed his arms and took the opponent's punch head-on. Thump thump thump. He frantically retreated more than 10 steps and barely managed to stabilize his body. Judging from the degree of spiritual energy rippling in the air, that guy's punch was at least 20,000 pounds. Phew! Li Qingyang shook his slightly numb arm. Mo Shangfei retracted his fist and said in surprise, to be able to take my Gale fist without batting an eyelid, your physical defense is not bad. However, he smiled and said, how many times can I take it? Swoosh! He rushed over with his movement technique. Before he arrived, his left and right fists frequently swung. Under the support of spiritual energy, they turned into shadows of fists. Middle-tier Gale Fist was known for its speed and fierceness. Mo Shangfei had comprehended it to the extreme. When he displayed it, Alliance Master Qin and the others were amazed. Su Xiaoma and Tian Qi's faces changed in shock. If it were them, they would not be able to dodge such a fast fist speed and power. They would definitely be battered and exhausted. Li Qingyang frowned slightly. He crossed his arms again, but with a few bangs he took all the powerful shadows of fists. His body also retreated step by step. Ta! He retreated to the edge of the martial arts field and stepped on the stone floor with one foot to stabilize his body. Mo Shangfei, who was unforgiving, quickly followed. He rose into the air, and his right fist was supported by spiritual energy. It flashed with light and blasted over. This attack was very strong. Alliance Master Qin and the other sect leaders instantly judged that Li Qingyang could not dodge left and right. He could either retreat or take it head-on. If he retreated, he would lose. After taking a few punches in succession, he would definitely be injured if he took it head-on. At this time, they hoped that Li Qingyang would retreat because it was equivalent to losing. He had lost without making a move from the beginning. They would definitely laugh at him. Jun Changxiao's fingers tapped rhythmically. It was not deliberate because he was panicking, but because his state of mind was really stable. Ta! At this time, Li Qingyang suddenly stepped on the ground with one foot. His right fist was at his abdomen. Spiritual energy crazily poured into his arm from his meridians, and a dazzling light gathered in his fist. Exploding fist! With a cold shout, his right fist suddenly blasted out. At the same time, the light flashed, and a whirlpool was formed 1 meter under his feet. Bang bang bang! The sound of explosions resounded in the martial arts field like a string of firecrackers being lit. Everyone was shocked and surprised. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Li Qingyang's fist, which carried the power of explosion, directly hit Mo Shangfei's fist and sent him flying. Thump thump thump! The inner disciple of the Sacred Spring Sect staggered and fell to the ground. He was forced to retreat more than 20 meters before he could stabilize himself. His eyes were filled with shock as he felt an intense pain from his right fist. The strength of his Gale fist had reached 22,000 pounds. When he faced Mo Shangfei head-on, he was completely at a disadvantage. Alliance Master Qin and the others, who had already prepared a line to mock Iron Bone, were all stunned when they saw Mo Shangfei being beaten back. It was unbelievable that he could still turn the situation around in such a situation. Exploding fist? What kind of martial arts technique was this? Why had they not heard of it? With the cultivation of a 4th-grade martial disciple, he was able to defeat an 8th-grade martial disciple who used the Gale fist. Could it be a middle-grade fist technique? Yi Xingqian, who was watching from the high slope, was secretly shocked. This fist technique is definitely not simple. Swoosh! Suddenly Li Qingyang rushed over. At the same time, his right fist turned into a palm knife. He poured spiritual energy into his palm and waved it in the air. Swoosh! 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 In an instant, 3 crescent moon-like flowing lights, dragging arcs of light, shot out from 3 directions. Wherever they passed, faint light shadows were left behind. That's right, I slashed. Xie Guangquan exclaimed. Spiritual force-type martial arts technique. Qin Haoran and the other sect leaders widened their eyes. Their eyes were finally filled with shock. Even the 3 elders of the Sacred Spring Sect, who were sitting calmly on the fishing platform, almost couldn't help but stand up when they saw Li Qingyang slashing out 3 crescent moon-like flowing lights. Spiritual force-type martial arts technique. The Sacred Spring Sect also had it, but the lowest level was middle grade. Only martial masters could use it. The weak cyclone in the dantian of a martial disciple was extremely difficult to use. Jun Changxiao copied the 5th elder and crossed one leg over the other. He smiled faintly and said, "You don't have to be so surprised, right?" Chapter 114. Li Qingyang's self-slash, a spiritual energy-type martial skill, immediately shocked everyone. Unbelievable. Night Emperor was also shocked. In his previous life, he had practiced many kinds of spiritual martial arts, so he knew the weakness of this kind of martial arts. For example, the sun and moon slash he practiced was also a spiritual martial arts, but the requirement was to reach Wu Sheng's level. Moreover, one slash would consume 60% of the energy of the cyclone. What about Li Qingyang? He just raised his hand and slashed out 3 rays of light. The process was too easy. The rupturing fist and the self-chop shocked Yi Xingqian deeply. He realized that the ironbone martial arts were not bad. Breaking through to martial disciple and practicing the martial arts of this sect seems to be better than practicing the martial arts of this emperor. He thought to himself. Yi Xingqian, who was originally only interested in Yi Jingjing, had a strong impression of rupturing fist and self-chop. Swoosh! 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 On the martial arts practice field, 3 rays of crescent light shot out in different trajectories. Mo Shangfei, who had just stabilized his body, suddenly changed his expression. He hurriedly used Gale Fist to meet them. Bang! Bang! His fists collided with the crescent light coming from the left and right, causing his arms to tremble violently. He felt as if his muscles were being torn apart. Mo Shangfei didn't have time to grit his teeth, because the 3rd ray of crescent light shot out from the ground. It drew a 90-degree arc from bottom to top and smashed into his chin. Swoosh! The strong force sent his whole body flying. Finally, he fell heavily on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Being able to block 2 self-chop, this Sacred Spring Sect inner disciple's performance was not bad. However, the third attack was from a tricky angle. There was no way to dodge it. Damn it. Mo Shangfei wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stood up. It seemed that his body was very strong. He was only slightly injured after being hit. This was because Li Qingyang didn't use all of his spiritual power. Otherwise, his bones would have been broken if he only used his fists to block the self-chop. The 3 elders' faces suddenly became gloomy. He had thought that his sect's disciple would be able to defeat his opponent easily. But who would have thought that he would be injured by his opponent's successive attacks? Qin Haoran said, although the spiritual energy martial technique is powerful, its weakness is that it cannot be sustained for long. If the Sacred Spring Sect disciples can withstand it, there is nothing to be afraid of. The Iron Bone disciple must have used up a lot of energy after using 3 moves in a row. He must be exhausted if he continues fighting. These elders of the 100 Sect Alliance seemed to be discussing amongst themselves, but their voices were very loud. It was obvious that they were reminding the inner disciples of the Sacred Spring Sect not to be impatient and to slowly exhaust him to death. Mo Shangfei didn't need to be reminded. He also knew the weakness of spiritual power type martial techniques. He shook his arms and said with a cold gaze, I was careless just now and let you seize the opportunity. This time, he was serious and no longer underestimated the enemy. The 5th elder picked his ears and grinned. The show has just begun. Not bad. Jun Changshao shook his legs and scratched his nose. The show has just begun. Schwa. After adjusting himself, Mo Shangfei rushed over once again. He used the Gale Fist, and his speed was obviously much faster than before. Instantly, more than 10 fist shadows appeared, and the power was quite explosive. Bang! 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 Li Qingyang used the rupturing fist. The sound of firecrackers and the sound of fist fighting spread out together. Faint spiritual energy rippled in the air. In just a moment, the 2 of them exchanged more than 10 moves with fist techniques. The dust under their feet collided with each other, forming a whirlwind around them and tearing the broken leaves into strips. Bang! The 2 of them exchanged another punch, and both of them retreated 4 to 5 meters. Li Qingyang stretched out his 10 fingers, and his arms were numb from the shock. Mo Shangfei wasn't any better. This kind of intense confrontation was like a rock hitting a rock. It hurt both the enemy and oneself. Looks like it will be hard to determine the winner in a short time. This is really strange. A 4th grade martial disciple can actually fight evenly with an 8th grade martial disciple. The quality of the fist technique used by the Iron Bone disciple is not low. Otherwise, he would have been defeated long ago. The Holy Spring Sect disciple's realm is high, and the spiritual energy in his cyclone is boundless. It won't be a problem for him to fight a protracted battle. The Iron Bone disciple's hands are shaking. In my opinion, the spiritual energy in his Dantian cyclone has been consumed by 70 to 80%. Swish! Li Qingyang waved his hand and said, I chop. Whoosh! The crescent-shaped flowing light burst out. He could still use spiritual energy-type martial arts? The sect leaders who were discussing saw the flowing light rushing over, and they were all dumbfounded on the spot. I chop. I chop. In a very short time, Li Qingyang waved his hand again and slashed out 2 crescent-shaped flowing lights. He used practical actions to fiercely slap a group of big shots in the face and tell them that his spiritual energy was abundant. Bang! 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 Mo Shangfei was alert. He used his body movement to dodge at the first moment. The 3 flowing lights bombarded the stone slabs one after another, smashing them into pieces. This time, it was Li Qingyang's turn to be unforgiving. Taking advantage of the other party's escape, he turned his body sideways and continuously made cutting motions like playing table tennis. Crescent-shaped flowing lights shot out one after another. Watching the crescent-shaped flowing lights fly past their eyes in different arcs on the training field, the expressions on the faces of Alliance Master Qin and the martial artists of the various sects stiffened. A spiritual energy-type martial arts with high consumption was thrown out with a wave of his hand. The scene was simply too frightening. Although Mo Shangfei tried to show off his coquettish movement in the light of the blade and sword, he could only dodge 3 flowing lights, and was mercilessly hit by the following flowing lights on his face, shoulders, hands, and feet. Plop! Finally, after being bombarded, he fell on all 4s on the ground. Blood spurted out from the side of his face, and he also rolled his eyes and fainted. Although the power of Li Qingyang's eye chop was not strong, it could not withstand the wild bombardment. Not to mention an 8th grade martial disciple. Even a 9th grade martial disciple would not be able to withstand it. We won. Second senior brother won. Su Xiaoma and Tianqi were so excited that they jumped up. Although Lu Qianqian was expressionless, she secretly said in her heart, "When we go back, I have to cultivate my I chop." This woman was the same as Yi Xingchen. She was only interested in Yi Jingjing. As for rupturing fist and eye chop, although she had them long ago, she never cultivated them. Seeing that his senior brother had won, Xiao Ziji gently raised his head, and his index finger also loosened from the trigger. He was always on high alert. If the battle just now was not favorable to second senior brother, he would have killed Mo Shangfei immediately. Junior brother Yi. Xiao Ziji grinned and said, "Second senior brother won." TSK. The cold and aloof Knight Emperor said disdainfully. "Do you have to be so happy after winning against an 8th grade martial disciple?" His state of mind was calm, because he had not integrated himself into the iron bone. He did not have the sect's sense of honor. Xiao Ziji was different. He recognized the iron bone, the sect leader, and his senior and junior brothers. Therefore, the joy brought by Li Qingyang's victory was no less than that of personally winning. Aya. Jun Changshao stood up and said apologetically, "Fists and legs have no eyes. I'm really sorry to beat up your sect's disciples like this." The Sacred Spring sect disciples standing on the left had anger in their eyes. Some of their hands were already on the hilt of their swords. Lu Qianqian took 2 steps forward and stood shoulder to shoulder with the sect leader. Her jade hand was also on the hilt of her sword. Her pair of starry eyes flashed with coldness. "My sister Qian is ruthless and doesn't talk much." Su Xiaoma and Tianqi also came over. Their hands were on the hilt of cold-edged sword. They glared angrily and did not show any weakness. Xiao Ziji once again approached the 8-fold scope. The crosshair locked onto the head of the Sacred Spring sect disciple closest to the sect leader. As long as he dared to move, his head would explode. Swords were drawn and bows were bent. The atmosphere was solemn. Chapter 115. The Holy Spring sect disciples found it hard to accept that Mo Shangfei had fainted, so they placed their hands on the hilt of their swords, as if they were planning to attack. Lu Qianqian and Su Xiaoma were not afraid either. "As long as you dare to attack, we will definitely dare to draw our swords." At this moment, the iron bones of the Iron Bones sect were vividly displayed. Once in the Black Wind stronghold, a disciple was greedy for life, and did not hesitate to betray the sect and join the bandits, which made Jun Changshao very disappointed. Now, facing the Holy Spring sect, this disciple did not have the slightest fear, and even dared to roll up his sleeves and face off against a strong enemy, which made him feel even more gratified. "I don't expect my disciples to be so talented. I also don't care if my disciples are noble or not. I only hope that my disciples are sincere and see themselves as a member of the Iron Bones sect, living and dying together, sharing riches and honor together." Sect leader Jun, the 3rd elder of the Holy Spring sect, said disdainfully, "What does your disciple mean?" Jun Changshao said indifferently, "What your disciple means is what my disciple means. Don't pretend to be confused." His disciples were all so hot-blooded. If he was scared, how could he be a sect leader? How could he be a main character? Damn it! Isn't it just a fight? This daddy's hard-to-withdraw blade has long been thirsty. At that moment, Jun Changshao wished he could take off his shirt, reveal the azure dragon on his left and the white tiger on his right, and use the one young finger and lion's roar on his chest, shouting, "Come here!" No wonder he was so calm. He had the hard-to-withdraw blade to rely on. Qin Haoran and the other sect leaders laughed. Daring to talk back to the elder of the Holy Spring Sect like this, it would be difficult for you to leave the Spirit Spring Sect with your disciples. At this moment, Xie Guangquan came out and advised, Elder C, Sect Leader Jun, it's just a spar between disciples. There's no need to be so hostile. He was more inclined towards Jun Changshao, hoping that he could get through this calamity. Thank you, City Lord. Qin Haoran said indifferently. Elder C is one of the 8 elders of the Holy Spring Sect, a mere sect leader of a 9th-rate sect, speaking in such a tone. Isn't it too presumptuous? Alliance head Qin. Jun Changshao took out his sect-level waist tag and said indifferently, Please open your dog eyes and let me see clearly. My Ironbone sect is now an 8th-rate sect. Qin Haoran was furious. What did you say? You didn't hear clearly? Jun Changshao raised his middle finger and raised his head. I say you, the alliance head of the 100 Sect Alliance, are but a dog in front of the Sacred Spring Sect. He wouldn't say anything if he just wanted to make a fool of himself. But if he wanted to fan the flames in a strange way, he had to go straight to the point, without going through the proper procedure. As the sect leader of a 6th-rate sect, and the alliance head of the 100 Sect Alliance, how could Qin Haoran tolerate such humiliation? The killing intent in his eyes was not concealed at all. Tsk Tisk, the Sacred Spring Sect's 5th elder said. An 8th-rate sect dares to humiliate Alliance Lord Qin in such an arrogant manner. It looks like they don't have any dignity in the Azure Sun County. He also knew how to fan the flames, and he was even more adept at it. Crack! Qin Haoran clenched his fists and took a step forward. However, just as he took a step forward, he heard a bang from afar. A fist-sized hole appeared on the stone slab a few inches in front of his feet. Swoosh! 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 The 3 elders of the Sacred Spring Sect stood up and looked coldly in the direction where the light came from. They saw a person standing on the slope with a smoking long object in his hand. Xie Guangquan and the leaders of the various sects also looked over, and their hearts were filled with shock. The light was so fast that they almost missed it. Was that a hidden weapon? The 3 elders of the Sacred Spring Sect looked at each other in dismay, their eyes showing a rare solemnity. From the speed and power of the light, they could tell that if they didn't have spiritual energy to protect their bodies, they would be severely injured if they were hit. Everyone. Jun Changshao sat on a chair and crossed his legs. He interlocked his fingers and smiled. The person above is a disciple of my sect. He's proficient in 36,000 types of hidden weapons. The hidden weapon he's holding is one of them. It's called the Divine Might Flamethrower. Divine Might Flamethrower? Everyone was at a loss. They had never heard of it. Jun Changshao continued. Sect leader Qin, that was just a warning. If you think my iron bone is easy to bully, I don't mind letting my disciple reward you with another one. There were 3 Wuzong from the Sacred Spring Sect, and Qin Haoran was also a Wuzong. Surrounded by strong opponents, he dared to let Xiao Ziji fire as a warning. What courage! Xie Guangquan secretly said. Sect leader Jun is really amazing. Qin Haoran, who was warned, had an ugly expression. After a little consideration, he retracted his leg. When the light exploded in front of him, the power it emitted scared him. It was hard to tell if the Type 88 sniper rifle could kill a Wuzong, but one thing was certain. It was hard to catch it with a high firing rate. It was easy to dodge a spear in the open, but difficult to guard against a hidden arrow. Sect leader Qin was also a little afraid that the disciple would fire another hidden weapon. Moreover, there was no need for him to take the initiative in the matter between Ironbone and the Sacred Spring Sect. Of course, it was hard to swallow the anger of being described as a dog. Ironbone and the 100 Sect Alliance had just parted ways. Now they had completely fallen out. Xiao Ziji's warning shot shocked sect leader Qin and the other sect leaders, as well as the Sacred Spring Sect disciples. Even though they had the urge to draw their swords, they did not plan to attack. After all, there was an Ironbone disciple who was proficient in more than 30,000 hidden weapons. Humph, the 3rd elder of the Sacred Spring Sect said indifferently. Sect leader Jun is so arrogant. I would like to see what you're capable of. The purpose of this battle was to embarrass Iron Bone and let others know that even the disciples expelled by their sect could not be provoked. But now, the disciple they sent out was defeated by an Iron Bone disciple. The plot was different from what they expected. It would be hard for them to just let it go. Therefore, they directly challenged Jun Changxiao with their status as sect leader. Qin Haoran and the others sneered. Wuzong-level sect leader challenged this guy to a battle. If he accepted, he would definitely be beaten like a dog. Can I reject? Jun Changxiao rubbed his nose and asked. He was not afraid of a battle. After all, there was a talisman that could increase one's strength. The key was that there was no mission. If he won, it would be a loss. A sixth-rate sect leader said indifferently, "You're a sect leader. The one you challenged is an elder of a sect. If you reject, you will be ridiculed by the people of Jianghu." "Oh," Jun Changxiao replied. "Damn you. Hurry up and give me a side mission. Let me fight him fair and square." Unfortunately, there was no response. The third elder said indifferently, "Sect leader Jun, do you dare to accept the challenge?" His eyes and tone were full of disdain. Does he think I don't dare to accept the challenge? Jun Changxiao thought to himself. What's his realm? How much strength does he have? The system said, first grade Wuzong. It's hard to accurately gauge his strength, but it's at least 200,000 pounds. 200,000 pounds? More than that. That's too high. My strength is around 25,000. Even with a 5 times boost from the talisman, it's still a far cry from his 200,000. The system poured cold water on him. Not only is there a difference in strength between the host and him, there is also a difference in realm. If you accept the challenge, your chances of winning are 0. The difference in strength between martial disciples was not big. It was not rare to beat someone above one's realm. But if a martial disciple were to fight a Wuzong, it would be suicide. Damn it, this is a bit of a dilemma. Do I have to waste the only talisman I have and use it? Ha ha ha. Just at that moment, a burst of laughter came from behind. Elder Ma and a few other disciples of the Tsang Mountain sect strode over and said, Elder C of the Grandmaster realm wants to challenge our little friend Jun, who is only a martial disciple. Sect leader C's face darkened. Ma Yunting. Chapter 116. Sect leader Jun was in a dilemma as to whether or not to use the unstoppable blade against the Holy Spring sect's third elder, when Tsang Mountain sect's elder Ma arrived. Phew, he let out a sigh of relief and said, the opening talisman is safe. Elder Ma Yin walked over and stood shoulder to shoulder with Jun Changxiao. He smiled and said, Little friend Jun, I didn't expect to see you again so soon after we parted in Qingyang City. Jun Changxiao cupped his hands and said, Qingyang County is too small, we meet everywhere. Haha. Ma Yinting laughed and said, What a good we meet everywhere. Qin Haoran and the other sect leaders' faces changed. Elder Ma called Jun little friend and was talking and laughing. This meant that the two had a close relationship. Damn it. Since when did Little Iron Bone hug Tsang Mountain sect's thigh? Jun Changxiao really didn't hug any thigh. He only gave Ma Yin-tung some pointers which made him feel grateful. When he heard about the Holy Spring sect's challenge, he hurried over. They came at the right time. Otherwise, once our sect leader Jun unsheathed his 40-meter-long blade, it would be difficult to take it back. The 3 elders of the Holy Spring sect had ugly expressions. Could it be that the Tsang Mountain sect had rushed over to support the Ironbone sect? Elder C, Ma Yinting said indifferently. Although you and little friend Jun are sect leaders, Wuzong is challenging a martial disciple. Don't you feel ashamed? Humph. Elder C said coldly. I was just joking. Elder Ma, don't take it seriously. Haha. Tsang Mountain sect came to make a joke. If they didn't come, then it wouldn't be a joke. So it's like this. Ma Yin-tung pretended to be enlightened and said, Like I said, how could a Wuzong challenge a martial disciple? Alliance leader Qin and the other sect leaders suddenly realized that Tsang Mountain sect wanted to support Iron Bone. They couldn't help but sigh. It was good to have a thigh to hug. Elder C's eyes became gloomy. Tsang Mountain sect was also a 5th-rate sect, their strength not weaker than the Holy Spring sect. If they really wanted to protect Iron Bone, they would have to return without success. Elder C. Ma Yunting said, I've heard a little about the spiritual spring sect. Is your holy spring sect here to denounce us? Elder C said indifferently, Elder Ma, please don't misunderstand. The Wei brothers have long been expelled and have nothing to do with our sacred spring sect. This trip is only to exchange pointers and discuss the Tao with Ironbone. It's not a punitive expedition. The two of them had a casual conversation, but it felt like neither of them was willing to give an inch. As expected of a fifth-rate sect, their exchange of words was like a battle between two experts. Ma Yunting glanced at Mo Shangfei, who had fainted on the martial arts practice field, and said, If I'm not wrong, your disciple seems to have been defeated, and the result of the sparring has been decided, right? At the mention of this, the faces of the three elders of the Sacred Spring sect turned even uglier. Jun Changshao seized the opportunity and said, Elder C, if you feel that it's not enough, you and I can send another disciple to have a friendly match. No need. Elder C pulled a long face and said, If fate wills it in the future, let's have another match. Mo Shangfei was the best inner disciple he had brought, but he had been beaten unconscious. If the other disciples went up to fight one-on-one, they definitely wouldn't have an advantage. Elder C glanced at the two elders behind him and cupped his hands, saying, Elder Ma, the sect's affairs are busy, so we'll take our leave first. After saying that, he started to walk away. Perhaps because he had a belly full of anger, he didn't even bother to greet Alliance head Qin and the others. Wait a moment. However, just as he reached the door, Jun Changshao shouted. Elder C stopped, but didn't turn around. He said, Sect head Jun, is there something else? Jun Changshao also had his back to him. He lowered his head and rubbed his fingers, saying, Our Ironbone sect's #1 motto is to not reciprocate. Changed again, quickly write it down. Li Qingyang and Su Xiaoma slightly closed their eyes, engraving the newest motto in their hearts. If conditions permitted, they might take out a small notebook and write it down. Not reciprocate is impolite? Elder C said in a low voice. Sect head Jun, what do you mean by this? Jun Changshao rubbed his nose and said, 1 year later, this seat will personally lead the sect's disciples to the Holy Spring sect to exchange pointers and discuss the Tao. Xie Guangquan and the other sect heads immediately widened their eyes. Although there was an extra year, it was undoubtedly a challenge to the Holy Spring sect. An 8th-rate sect challenging a 5th-rate sect. This was absolutely unprecedented. Elder C said disdainfully, Sect head Jun, to say something unpleasant, your Ironbone sect really doesn't have the qualifications to come to my Holy Spring sect to exchange pointers and discuss the Tao. Indeed, the difference between an 8th-rate sect and a 5th-rate sect was too great. Jun Changshao smiled faintly. I don't have the qualifications now, but that doesn't mean I won't have the qualifications a year later. Good, Elder C said straightforwardly. My Holy Spring sect accepts the challenge. 1 year later, we will wait for Sect head Jun and our disciples to come to Holy Spring Mountain to exchange pointers and discuss the Tao. However, Elder C's eyes darkened. When the time comes, Sect head Jun must not miss the appointment. Jun Changshao said, Elder C, please rest assured. My Ironbone sect's first mission is to be civilized, harmonious, honest, and friendly. We will not do anything that goes back on our word. The cultivators present all twitched their mouths. They even wanted to take the liberty to ask, Sect head Jun, how many of your Ironbone sect's first missions are there? Elder C said indifferently. 1 year later, my Holy Spring sect respectfully awaits the arrival of Ironbone sect. After saying that, he waved his sleeves and angrily left with the other elders and disciples. He had originally wanted to punish Ironbone sect in front of everyone, but in the end, his inner disciple had been beaten unconscious, and he had to carry him back. This loss of face was too great, so it would be strange if he wasn't angry. After the Holy Spring sect left, the excitement died down. The various sect heads walked over and bid farewell to Ma Yunting with a smile. However, just as Qin Haoran walked to the door, Jun Changshao said, Alliance head Qin, after some time, my Ironbone sect will also go to Haoqi sect to spar. Humph. Qin Haoran said indifferently. This Qin will be waiting. After he left with the various sect heads, Xie Guangquan walked over and cupped his fists towards Elder Ma. Then he shook his head and said, Sect Head Jun, you first set a 1-year appointment with the Holy Spring Sect, then set a battle appointment with Haoqi Sect. Aren't you making enemies everywhere? Jun Changshao said, City Lord Xie, do you think my Iron Bone Sect can still get along peacefully with the 100 Sect Alliance and Alliance Head Qin? No, Xie Guangquan said. From the moment this brat called Qin Haoran a dog, he knew that both sides had completely fallen out. The next time they met in the wild, if they didn't fight, they would be letting down the bitter hatred between them. Jun Changshao shrugged and said, Since we are enemies, why not set a battle appointment and let everyone know? Hearing this, Xie Guangquan was enlightened. He immediately raised his thumb and praised. Sect Head Jun's move is brilliant, this Xie admires. As long as the news of the battle appointment with Alliance Head Qin spread to the Jianghu, no matter if it was Haoqi Sect or the Alliance members, no one would be able to find trouble with Iron Bone Sect directly. Otherwise, they would be criticized. This was a good plan. However, Xie Guangquan also knew that once the battle was set, they would be able to avoid being disturbed by the Alliance. But sooner or later, they would have to accept the battle. Would Sect Leader Jun and his Iron Bone Sect be able to defeat the 6 Streams Vast Qi Sect? P.S. Please vote. Chapter 117. The people of the Holy Spring Sect left. Qin Haoran and the other sect leaders also left. Although they left at different times, what they had in common was that they all left with a belly full of anger. One failed to teach Jun Changshao a lesson, one was scolded like a dog, and the rest wanted to see a joke but failed. It would be strange if they were happy. The other forces who came to join in the fun were shocked. Iron Bone Li Qingyang defeated an 8th grade martial disciple, with the cultivation of a 4th grade martial disciple. This was absolutely valiant. What was even more valiant was that Jun Changshao was not afraid of a giant like the Holy Spring Sect. He even set an appointment to spar with the Holy Spring Sect 1 year later. Was he sick in the head? This was what all the martial artists were thinking as they went down the mountain road. They could understand that disciples relied on special martial skills to win. An 8th-rate sect challenging a 5th-rate sect. This was absolutely a joke. Iron Bone Sect leader is really bold, daring to challenge the Holy Spring Sect. He really doesn't know how much he's worth. In my opinion, he can't even pass the test of Alliance leader Qin, let alone go to the Holy Spring Sect. That guy didn't say a specific time limit. Who knows when he will go to the Vast Qi Sect to spar. Ever since Sect Master Jun made a name for himself in the 100 Sect recruitment, our Azure Sun County hasn't been peaceful. Many martial artists were discussing in private, but they were also looking forward to Jun Changshao taking his disciples to the Vast Qi Sect as soon as possible. After all, this would add a little fun to their boring cultivation life. Not to mention, it was not good for the Jianghu to be too peaceful. Outside the ruins of the Spirit Spring Sect, Jun Changshao walked out and said gratefully, Elder Ma, thank you for coming in time. Otherwise, Jun really doesn't know how to face the Holy Spring Sect. Ma Yunting said, My Blue Mountain Sect is in the Azure Sun County after all. Naturally, we will not tolerate the Holy Spring Sect bullying little friend Jun Changshao said seriously. Jun will remember today's help. If Elder Ma needs my iron bone in the future, I will not spare any effort to help. His principle was if you are bad to me, I am worse than you. You treat me well, and I treat you even better. What's more, the 5 Streams Green Mountain Sect had a solid foundation. If he could make friends with them, it would really be a good thigh for him. Jun Changshao would not take the initiative to hug a thigh, but since the thigh had extended itself to him, he would definitely hug it. If he was so shameless as to pluck the leg hair one by one, then his brain would definitely be clamped by the door. Elder Ma smiled and said, Sect Master Jun, I do have a request. Please speak, Jun Changshao said. Elder Ma looked at the disciples behind him and said, These good-for-nothing disciples have encountered some trouble on the path of martial arts. Little friend Jun, please give us some pointers. Jun Changshao said, No problem. As he spoke, he crushed a primary grade insight talisman and began to listen to the Blue Mountain Sect disciples talk about their own problems in martial arts, giving them the most correct pointers. At the same time, he also practiced the martial arts of the Tsang Mountain Sect. He couldn't be blamed. With the enhancement of the insight talisman, as long as he obtained the cultivation technique, he would be able to comprehend it within minutes. Of course, this kind of magical insight talisman had a drawback, which was that it was only applicable to the martial arts of the Falling Star continent and had no effect on the martial arts of the mall. It was impossible for Jun Changxiao to comprehend the martial arts of the mall with the insight talisman. Fortunately, the 3 martial arts of the mall that had been refreshed during this period were not too difficult to learn. In just more than 10 minutes, the disciples of the Tsang Mountain Sect were guided one by one. They were all lost in thought, and their confusion about martial arts suddenly became clear. Xie Guangquan, who was next to him, was dumbfounded. The disciples of the 5th-rate sect were enlightened by the 8th-rate sect leader one by one. This scene was really unimaginable. He leaned over and said rather embarrassedly, "Sect Master Jun, I also have a problem on the path of martial arts. I wonder if you can solve it for me?" "Please go ahead," Jun Changxiao said. Just now in the martial arts practice field, when City Lord Xie came forward to persuade him, he knew that he was on his side, so he didn't mind giving him some pointers. Xie Guangquan told him about a kind of fist technique that he was practicing and even demonstrated it on the spot. Jun Changxiao was silent for a while, then gave him professional technical guidance and slightly changed the way he operated the fist technique. Of course, he also learned the martial arts technique. This change stunned City Lord Xie for a long time. In the end, he gave a thumbs up and exclaimed, "Sect Master Jun's slight change solved my confusion for many years. You are really a god." Jun Changxiao said humbly, "This is my only strong point. My martial arts are not worth mentioning. I will have to rely on City Lord Xie in the future." When it was time to be arrogant, he would be arrogant. When it was time to build a good relationship, he would have to build a good relationship. After all, there was still a long way to go. If he offended the whole world, he would die sooner or later, unless he had the protagonist's halo. Xie Guangquan was also a wily old fox. How could he not understand the meaning of his words? So he said seriously, "Sect Master Jun, please rest assured. As long as you are in the territory of Qingyang City, anyone who dares to touch your iron bone will be the enemy of the 3.6 million people of Qingyang City." This city lord was a little cute to be able to pull out 3.6 million people without saying anything. However, he didn't expect that one day in the future, the flames of war would spread to Qingyang County. Tens of thousands of cavalry would arrive at Qingyang City, and a fierce man and some fierce disciples would stand on the city walls to protect the 3.6 million people with their iron bones. His disciple had received some pointers and needed to go into seclusion to comprehend them. So Ma Yunting bid farewell. However, before he left, he gave Xie Guangquan 1,000,000 taels as thanks for the pointers. Jun Changxiao said in surprise, "1,000,000 taels in one go. Elder Ma is really rich." Xie Guangquan said, "Although the Blue Mountain Sect lives in seclusion in the Blue Mountain Sect and rarely travels in the Jianghu, they have properties in every city and are managed by Elder Ma. Their financial power cannot be underestimated." As expected, Jun Changxiao thought, whether it is the previous world or the present world, this surnamed Ma is really amazing. The system said, "Go and call your father." Scram. Jun Changxiao brought his disciple and Xie Guangquan down the mountain and returned to Qingyang City. As for Xiao Ziji and Yi Xingchen, they continued to cultivate. Not long after, the news of Iron Bone's one-year battle with the Sacred Spring Sect spread throughout Qingyang County. Without a doubt, it caused a huge uproar. "Have you heard about the matter of the Spiritual Spring Sect?" This was the first sentence that martial artists said when they met. If someone said that they had not heard about it, then they were definitely fat otakus and would be despised by everyone. The one-year battle, not only did it spread throughout Qingyang County, it also spread to other counties. After the families and sects of the counties heard the news, Not only did they remember the unknown iron bone, they also unanimously believed that they were courting death. In fact, the reason why Jun Changshao dared to issue the battle was just like Xiao Ziji's 3-year battle. He had set a goal for himself, such as defeating a 5th-rate sect a year later. Not starting with an 8th-rate or 7th-rate sect, but directly aiming for a 5th-rate sect. This was really a bit too valiant. If one did not become stronger while courting death, one would be singing a sad song while courting death. This was very exciting. After returning to the sect, Jun Changshao gathered his disciples and said, "1 year later, we will go to the Sacred Spring Sect to spar. Your mission is to become stronger and stronger. Tell me loudly, can you do it?" "Yes," the disciples shouted with their hands behind their backs. OJ8K disband. Chapter 118. The 1-year agreement with the Sacred Spring Sect and the sparring at the Haoqi Sect made the atmosphere in Ironbone more serious, and the disciples worked harder on their cultivation. But it was far from enough. Not to mention fighting against a 5th-rate sect. Just facing a 6th-rate sect was like a huge mountain in front of them, and it was very difficult to surmount. After returning, Jun Changshao had been thinking about this problem, and finally came to the conclusion that to make the disciples stronger, they could only rely on elixirs and spirit stones. The system said, elixirs and spirit stones are only supplementary goods. The disciples' spirit root aptitude determines everything. That's right, Jun Changshao agreed. Elixirs and spirit stones can certainly improve cultivation quickly, but the disciples' spirit roots are ordinary, and sooner or later, they will be unable to continue. If I can use the aptitude-modifying elixir to improve my spirit root, the other disciples must be able to as well. Jun Changshao murmured. A bold idea rose in his mind, to use the aptitude-modifying elixir to improve the quality of the disciples' spirit roots. In the shopping list, there were 3 types of aptitude-modifying elixirs, which could easily make a disciple with a low-grade spirit root reach the high-grade level. But to buy all 3 types, it would cost 150 contribution points. With the current contribution points limit, he could only buy 3 sets to help 3 disciples improve. Jun Changshao murmured. With my current ability, I can't train all of them, but I can let some of them become stronger first. Every sect had an inner sect division, and the inner sect was equal to the elites, and enjoyed enough resources. Jun Changshao wanted to let some of the disciples become stronger first, and in fact, it was equivalent to dividing the inner and outer sect disciples. In a large sect, to become an inner sect disciple, one must rely on one's own aptitude and hard work to fight for it. Jun Changshao wanted to choose a few first. Li Qingyang with the high-grade spirit root, and the mysterious Lu Qianqian could be excluded, and he quickly drew up the list of disciples to focus on. Xiao Ziji, Su Xiaoma, Tianqi Li Fei and Yi Xingchen. The next day, Jun Changshao officially announced that from today onwards, Ironbone would be divided into inner and outer disciples. The first batch of inner disciples would consist of 7. I treat all of you equally. If you want to become an inner sect disciple, you must prove yourself with your strength, he added. The disciples didn't feel dispirited at all. Instead, they became even more determined to become stronger. Work hard. Work harder. Use your own strength to become an inner court disciple. The division between the inner and outer sects once again stimulated the Ironbone disciples' passion for cultivation. After all, it was tantamount to giving them a goal to strive for. Sect leader. After disbanding, Lu Qianqian walked into the main hall and said, "Since we're going to divide the inner and outer sect, the rewards and punishments must also be set. Only then will the junior brothers have more motivation to cultivate and not slack off." Leaning on the chair, Jun Changshao smiled. "What do you think?" Lu Qianqian said, "There will be a strength assessment every month, a small disciple competition every 3 months, and a big disciple competition every year." This system was used by many sections. How many protagonists in novels didn't shine in various competitions in academies and sects, and eventually become gods, demons, emperors, and celestial lords? Yes, Jun Changshao said. The existence of the system had its reasons. He couldn't avoid it. Moreover, didn't the world's top student also stand out in the annual assessment and become an existence that everyone looked up to? How are the rewards and punishments? The champion of the big disciple competition every year will become an inner court disciple. The top 9 will be rewarded. The same goes for the top 10 in the small competition every 3 months. In the strength assessment every month, the outstanding will be rewarded accordingly. The bottom will have to do labor for a certain period of time. Hearing Lu Qianqian explain the various rewards and punishments in such detail, Li Qingyang couldn't help but think, this is definitely the first time senior sister has spoken so much. Jun Changshao said yes. He adopted Lu Qianqian's suggestion to set up various tests and small competitions for Iron Bone. He also thought seriously about the rewards. In the strength assessment every month, the winner will receive 3 Qi gathering pills. In the small competition every 3 months, the champion will receive 10 Qi gathering pills. The second and third place will receive 5, and the 4th to 10th place will receive 3 each. The rewards of the big competition every year were more generous. The champion will not only become an inner court disciple, but will also be rewarded with the basic cold-edged sword and 20 Qi gathering pills. The top 9 will also receive different amounts of rewards. This was only a temporary reward system. When the sect became stronger and had more martial arts resources, it would definitely be improved. Unlike other sects, as long as a disciple joined, there would be various benefits. For example, the sect's martial arts could be practiced freely, the basic body shaping pill would be given to everyone, and the meridian opening pill would be given out at a fixed time. Just this point alone made even the most powerful sects feel ashamed of their inferiority. Late at night, Jun Changshao sat on the roof of the main hall and took a puff of his cigar. He blew out a smoke ring and said, "The division of disciples and the rewards and punishments have been established. It represents the formal establishment of the sect. My goal is," holding the cigar and pointing to the sky, he said heroically, "to conquer the sea of stars." Bang! Plop! Oh my God, Li Fei, you kicked the sect leader down. Rustle, rustle, rustle. In the dark and damp mountain forest, a figure bent over and ran quickly. Then he stuck to a moss-covered rock and sprinkled a handful of grass leaves, which then drifted away with the wind. This was Xiao Ziji, locating the wind direction and speed. Shwa! Suddenly he appeared from the rock, holding up the Type 88 sniper rifle. His index finger suddenly pulled the trigger, only to hear a bang sound. A stream of light burst out, accurately hitting the head of the bear that was tearing at the corpse 800 meters away. He didn't use the 8x scope. It was completely a shoulder shot. Very accurate, super accurate. Dang dang dang. Because of the recoil, Xiao Ziji took a few steps back. Shooting with the support of the magic-modified shoulder pads, he could ignore it, but shooting while standing still couldn't withstand it. After a while, he came to the front of the slain 5th-rank beast and took out its core with the cold-edged sword. A bright smile appeared on his face. Boom! The sound of a fist came from another area. Yi Xingchen's fist wind bombarded a 1st-rank tiger beast and finally cruelly cut open its stomach. Blood and mincemeat splattered, making him look like a killing god. Xiao Ziji secretly said, "Junior brother Ye's killing intent is very strong." Just after his rebirth, he was forced to join the Iron Bone Club and suffered the torture of happy football. Now that he was training in the wilderness, if Night Emperor didn't vent his anger and killing intent, he might suffer internal injuries. Not counting the Spirit Spring Mountain, the two had been training in the wilderness for 7 days. Relying on the I Jing Jing, Xiao Ziji entered the 5th stage from the 4th stage of the Meridian Opening Realm, and Yi Xingchen entered the 9th stage. The increase in realm was secondary. The most important thing was that under the 7 days of training, the two's combat experience had increased. For example, Yi Xingchen had perfectly adapted to his body during this period of training. Relying on the martial arts experience of his previous life, he could seize the initiative when facing an enemy. However, due to his body's aptitude, his spiritual energy, reaction time, and various factors were limited. If he challenged a high-level vicious beast, he would definitely be abused. As long as I comprehend the second stage of the Taishan Sutra, my spiritual root aptitude can be raised from the low grade to the common grade. Yi Xingchen secretly said. He was full of hope for his future because he had the Taishan Sutra and the I Jing Jing. Bang! Suddenly, the sound of a gunshot rang out, and a flowing light bullet shot out. Yi Xingchen's pupils suddenly contracted. At that moment he wanted to dodge, but his body couldn't keep up with his thoughts. Bang! The flowing light bullet flew past his ear, directly exploding the head of the low-level vicious beast pouncing from behind. Plop! Its huge body crashed to the ground, blood flowing out. Yi Xingchen's forehead oozed a drop of cold sweat. In the 0.1 second just now, he calculated that if he died, would his next rebirth take thousands or tens of thousands of years. Junior brother Yi Xiao Ziji steadied his body and placed the gun on his shoulder. He smiled and said, "Retrieve the crystal core." Chapter 119. On the 6th day after the Spirit Spring Mountain battle, all the Ironbone disciples, except for Lu Wanshi, had broken through to the 12th stage of the channel opening realm. Sect Master Li Qingyang reported. In the past few days, more disciples have broken through to the martial disciple realm. The number of disciples has reached 19. 19 martial disciples, and 79 12th stage of the channel opening realm. Very strong. Unfortunately, there was a limit to the number of disciples in the sect. Even if all of them became strong, they would not be able to reach the 7th rate. Jun Changshao muttered. It's time to open the sect and accept disciples. Once the sect became official, the number of disciples had to increase. Therefore, he went to Qingyang City on the same day, and went to the city lord's mansion. Thank you, city lord. As soon as he entered the hall, Jun Changshao went back to the main topic. I want to recruit disciples. Can I borrow the signboard? No problem. Xie Guangquan said straightforwardly. As a result, the Iron Bone Sect's recruitment advertisements appeared on every street bulletin board in every district of Qingyang City. Every recruitment notice was different. East of the city, join the Iron Bone clan, and create a dream together. South of the city, gather all the talents in the world and recruit talents. Iron Bone clan, you are trustworthy. North of the city, don't think that you are not a fine horse. In fact, you just lack a talent scout. West of the city, if you want to fly, I will give you a pair of wings. The recruitment announcements of the various sects in the Falling Star continent were either literary or classical. Iron Bone's short and unique recruitment announcement immediately attracted a lot of attention. Not only in Qingyang City, Jun Changshao relied on the AI clan's connections, and also made recruitment announcements in Huyang City. However, after a few days, the number of martial artists who signed up was very few. Caw-caw crows flew in the sky and cried out. Jun Changshao, who was sitting in front of the mountain gate, held his chin and collapsed. We have done a lot of big things in this period of time. Why hasn't anyone signed up? Li Qingyang said, Sect Master. Our sect has a battle agreement with the Sacred Spring Sect and the Grand Spirit Sect. We are at the heart of the storm. I am afraid that many people are afraid to sign up. That makes sense, Jun Changshao said. Actually, this wasn't a bad idea. At least they could get rid of some hooligans. Those who dared to sign up were definitely not afraid of trouble. They really wanted to join Iron Bone. At this moment, a young man in white walked up the stairs. One of his hands was behind his back, while the other was gently fanning himself. A cool breeze blew away his scattered black hair, revealing a handsome face. When Jun Changshao and Li Qingyang looked over, their first thought was how flirtatious. Shua, the young man in white closed his folding fan and walked to the front of the registration counter. He said in a gentle and elegant manner, Sect Leader Jun, I have admired the Iron Bone clan for a long time, so I came here to be your disciple. The direction of the cupped hands was Li Qingyang. Jun Changshao raised his hand and pushed the second disciple away. Then he picked up the brush and wrote the words I am the sect leader on a piece of paper. He then slapped the paper on his forehead. Let me ask you, is it clear enough? This, Seeing this, the young man in white said awkwardly, I'm sorry, I mistook you for someone else. Please don't take offense, sect leader June. Take offense? How is that possible? I can hold a boat in my stomach. Jun Changshao crossed his legs and waved the brush in his fingers. He said in a bad mood, What's your name? Long Xiang. The young man in white said. Jun Changshao was stunned. He pulled the paper off his head and looked at the person carefully. He thought to himself, so polite, he should have received higher education. Also, his surname is Long, so his identity is definitely not simple. After a brief consideration, he took the entry form and asked, Gender. Male. Age. Just over 16. Realm. Level 9 Meridian opening. Jun Changshao did not ask about spirit roots, because as long as he was interested, low grade and supreme grade were meaningless. He directly stamped it. Ding. Sect member. 103500. Ding. Sect contribution points. 302500. Jun Changshao said, Xingyang, take your junior brother to the sect. Arrange a room and give him the school uniform. Oh right, don't forget to give him the sect's mission and rules booklet. Yes. Li Qingyang brought Long Xiang into the sect. Jun Changshao continued to cultivate Yi Jing while waiting. Not long after, a muscular man came up. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, Excuse me, are you still recruiting? Yes, Jun Changshao said. The man walked over and put his hands on the table. He said while panting, I want to join the Iron Bone sect. Jun Changshao held his chin and looked at him. He said, Your body looks good. Why are you so tired from climbing the mountain? The man held his breath. I ran all the way here from Huyang City. Jun Changshao was shocked. The Iron Bone sect was hundreds of miles away from Huyang City. To be able to run all the way here in one breath, his body was very strong. Name: Yang Yuhua. Such a muscular man, yet his name was quite elegant. Age: 15 years old. Jun Changshao raised his head and looked at the man's body and head. He then looked at the man's angular face and said in surprise, You're only 15 years old? Yang Yuhua scratched his head and said, Others say that I look old. You're not old. You just look a little rushed. Jun Changshao said, Stage. Yang Yuhua said softly, Third stage meridian opening. He was so muscular and could run all the way to the Iron Bone sect in one breath. He was only at the third stage meridian opening. It seemed that his body was developed, but his spirit root was weaker. Brother, can I join? Yang Yuhua said weakly. Jun Changshao stamped the sect master's seal and pointed at the door. Take the form and go in. Someone will arrange everything for you. Ding. Sect members. 104500. Ding. Sect contribution points. 303,500. Yang Yuhua took the form and walked into the sect. He did not forget to turn back and say gratefully, Thank you, brother. Kid. Jun Changshao said indifferently. I'm holding the sect master's seal and you're calling me brother. Ga. Yang Yuhua stopped in his tracks and turned his head. His expression changed, and he quickly cupped his hands. I'm sorry, brother. Sect master. Sect master. More people came to sign up. However, Jun Changshao would first make a judgment based on his intuition, and then decide whether to accept them or not. In one day, more than 10 people signed up, including Long Xiang and Yang Yuhua. Only 5 disciples were recruited. The rest were all eliminated. It was not that he did not want to accept them, but that some of them were too weird. For example, the last person was a hunchbacked old man in his 70s or 80s. Sigh. Perhaps Li Qingyang was right. The sect is in the teeth of the storm. There are very few martial artists who dare to sign up. 10 days later, Iron Bone only recruited 46 disciples. Jun Changshao handed the matter over to Li Qingyang. Then, he called Su Xiaoma, Tianqi, and Li Fei to the study room. In view of your good performance, each of you will be rewarded with a bottle of aptitude-changing liquid. Aptitude-changing liquid? Su Xiaoma asked with a puzzled expression. Sect master, what is this? After consuming it, it will allow you to break through 1 grade from your original spirit roots. Jun Changshao said. He said it very casually, But the three of them opened their eyes wide, and their mouths wide open. It should be more than enough to stuff 2 eggs. Su Xiaoma's spirit root was of the common grade. His aptitude-changing liquid was suitable for common grade. Tianqi and Li Fei's were suitable for lower grade. The three of them returned to their rooms, as if they had found a treasure. They carefully drank the liquid. Not only did their spirit roots improve, their cultivation was also increased. They all broke through to the 2nd grade martial disciple. Too magical. They were happy, but Sect Master Jun spent 150 contribution points. Now, he only had 185 points left. The system said, using the contribution points on them is a bit of a waste. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes and said proudly, "In the Spirit Spring Mountain, I am not afraid of the Sacred Spring Sect. I am willing to use contribution points to cultivate such unyielding disciples. What can you do?" Chapter 120. Transforming Su Xiaoma. And the other 2 was just the beginning. Jun Changshao left 2 bottles of contribution points for Xiao Ziji and Yi Xingchen, waiting for them to return. Li Qingyang and Lu Qianqian, because he didn't have the higher quality transformation liquid. He could only temporarily give them qi-gathering pills to help them quickly increase their cultivation. With more than 100 disciples, Jun Changshao couldn't divide them equally. Yes, divide them equally. If you want to be dirty, hurry up and face the wall. He decided on a few main disciples first, hoping that after a year on the Sacred Spring Mountain, they would have a stunning performance and loudly tell the world that the Ironbone clan was not simple. In fact, Jun Changshao could buy 1 less bottle, because Yi Xingchen, who was cultivating in the wild, had comprehended the Taishan Sutra to the 2nd stage, and his spiritual root had entered the mortal grade from the low grade. His realm had also broken through from the 9th stage to the 12th stage, and was only 1 step away from becoming a martial disciple. Ha ha ha. Sitting cross-legged in the cave, feeling the sublimation of his spiritual root and the improvement of his body, Yi Xingchen unscrupulously laughed out loud. "I will strengthen my body and enter the divine grade spiritual root. That will be the day when I return to the peak." He clenched his fists and said with a cold look in his eyes, "At that time, I will make the heavens unable to cover my eyes and the earth unable to bury my heart. I will make the so-called Empress of the Eternal Era disappear." Whoosh whoosh. His body emitted a special aura. This was the domineering aura of a former martial emperor. Unfortunately, his soul suffered a setback in his previous life, and he was nurtured in the earth's core for thousands of years. After breaking through the mortal grade spiritual root, only a little of it was revealed. Xiao Ziji, who was awakened by the laughter, said, "Junior brother Yi, why are you laughing in the middle of the night?" "Humph." Yi Xingchen coldly snorted and said, "Vulgar mortal." Roar. Suddenly, a roar came from outside the cave and the ground shook. Not good. Xiao Ziji carried the Type 88 sniper rifle and rushed out of the cave. In the distance, a huge black bear stood up, and a thick tree was directly cut in half by the bear's paw. Yi Xingchen walked out, glanced at the big guy, and said disdainfully, "Trash." Shwa. Xiao Ziji raised his gun and aimed at the black bear's head. "Wait." Yi Xingchen raised his hand and stood in front of him. He said coldly, "Leave it to me." Xiao Ziji said, "Junior brother, this is a black demon bear comparable to a peak martial disciple." Roar. The dark demon bear swung its arms and smashed the trees around it. It roared furiously at the 2 of them, bringing with it a strong wind that brought with it a nauseating stench. Trash. As Yi Xingchen spoke, he took 2 steps back and said, "I'm too lazy to do anything." Roar. Just at this moment, the black demon bear dragged its huge body and rushed over. The trees and rocks along the way were either knocked away or smashed into pieces. Boom. Gunshots rang out in the forest. "Let's learn to meow together, meow 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 meow. Acting coquettishly in front of you. Ayo meow 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 meow." Early morning, martial arts practice field. The magically modified sound system was playing a brand new divine song, and all the disciples of Iron Bone were dancing to the rhythm. Lu Wanshur was following the melody of the music. Sometimes she clenched her small fists, put them in front of her cheeks, and sometimes she nodded gently. She looked extremely cute. Seeing the little girl jumping happily, Jun Changshao whispered, Dudu was born in the wrong world. If he was born on Earth, he would definitely be a group of dead fat otakus. Suddenly, he thought of something and said, Since there are guns in the mall, are there any rockets or spaceships? Yes, the system said. Jun Changshao was overjoyed. But the system habitually poured cold water on him and said, Only high-level malls can refresh, so the host should take back the immature idea of crossing the universe and returning to Earth. Jun Changshao said disapprovingly, As long as there is such a thing, there is a possibility of returning to Earth. The system said, There is spiritual power in the high-level world, and the lifespan of living beings is much higher than that of Earth. Why does the host have to go back? You don't understand. Jun Changshao looked at the distant sky and said longingly, That is my home. My friends are there, and also my first love and relatives. I don't think I have any relatives. The system said, So the host's purpose of returning to Earth is to bring the high-level world's cultivation to show off? Annoying, you have to expose me. Of course. Jun Changshao said, American movies don't always have some Iron Man, green hat, and save the world. When I go back, I will call all the people from the Women's Federation over and beat them up one by one. Let's see how awesome they are. The system was speechless. That's just a movie. Not to mention, if these superheroes really exist, then the entire Earth, and even the Milky Way, will be Simidas. This retort, Jun Changshao said, sharp. All right. The system said again, Asian Games Hero League Exhibition Competition in Jakarta. Your country's players defeated the Korean team 3-1 and won the gold medal. As an ex-bronze-ranked player in Hero League, Jun Changshao was stunned. The system said, The career of a game player is very short. To be able to make the host country's flag fly in the competition once every 4 years, this is worthy of respect. Shua. Jun Changshao tore off his long shirt and rushed into the training field. He followed the disciples and danced to the beat. He was as happy as a 5 or 6-year-old child. Babies, let's get high. My heart is thumping. I am infatuated with your evil smile. If you don't say you love me, I will meow meow meow. After the morning exercise, the disciples went back to their own training. Long Xiang, Yang Yuhua, and the other disciples who had just entered the sect had ugly expressions. It was obvious that they had not gotten used to the shameful morning exercise. I was actually dancing just now. I was actually twisting just now. Xiang Yuhua. Su Xiaoma waved his hand and smiled. Come, senior brother will bring you to training. Oh, Long Xiang, Yang Yuhua, and the other new disciples followed and entered the training room. One by one, they entered the muscle building room and went through 2 hours of building. At night, this group of new disciples was paralyzed on the training field. The next day, after they regained their energy, they began to learn how to play football. In the end, after Li Fei used his face to catch the ball, they squatted in a corner like children and covered their faces as they wailed. Mom, there are too many bad people in the sect. I want to go home. Go home. That did not exist. The moment they stepped into the Iron Bonjing sect, they were destined to either become stronger in a mountain of blades and a sea of flames, or sing in the abyss of hell. After the new disciples entered the sect, everyone received a copy of the tendon-changing scripture and the muscle-building pill, and began to learn how to integrate into the life of the sect. Jun Changshao then began to think about how to quickly increase his contribution points. The fastest way to earn contribution points was to recruit all the disciples. This way, he could obtain 352 contribution points, and also activate the sect mission. However, it was not easy to recruit. Li Qingyang sat outside for 2 days, and did not see anyone. My head hurts. Jun Changshao rubbed his temples. Sect leader. Elder Wei walked into the main hall and said, The planted herbs have sprouted. So fast. Jun Changshao was rather surprised. Calculating the time, it had only been slightly more than 10 days. Elder Wei said, Herbs are not like crops. If you cultivate them diligently, they will feel it and express their gratitude by growing quickly. So mysterious? Jun Changxiao said with interest. Elder Wei, you are not simple. Is it convenient for you to tell me your story? Elder Wei laughed self-deprecatingly and said, I am only a third-grade apothecary. I have done nothing for most of my life. What story can I have? Jun Changxiao said, Elder Wei is very professional in cultivating herbs. Only a third-grade apothecary? I will never believe it. Elder Wei did not want to talk about this topic and said, I need a few disciples to go to the mountains to fetch spring water to water the herbs. Everyone had their own secrets. If he did not say, Jun Changxiao would not force him. He immediately arranged for Long Xiang, Yang Yuhua, and the other new disciples to help Elder Wei fetch water from the mountains. Sect leader. At this moment, Li Qingyang hurriedly walked in from outside. With a serious expression he said, Star Cloud Sect elder brought disciples to spar. Star Cloud Sect? Jun Changxiao had never heard of it. Li Qingyang said, one of the 4 seventh-rate sects in Qingyang County. The sect leader is called Meng Xingda. The one who brought disciples to spar is the 7th elder. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, this 7th-rate Star Cloud sect should be a member of the 100 Sect Alliance. That's right, Li Qingyang said. Chapter 121. The 100 Sect Alliance's nebulous sect came to find him to spar. Even a fool could see that they had some dirty dealings with Alliance leader Qin. Alliance leader Qin. Jun Changxiao rubbed his fingers and laughed. We have a battle agreement. It's not convenient for you to make a move, so you sent other sects to stir up trouble. Very particular, very particular. Ding. Side mission activated. The system notification sounded. Damn. Finally a mission came. Jun Changxiao hurriedly opened the data panel. The side mission was, defeat Nebula Sect's 7th Elder Song Kai 0 of 1, elite mission. There was a second mission. The mission was, disciple beat up Nebula Sect's disciple 0/5. It was fine if he didn't come, but when he came, he got 2. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Jun Changxiao waved his sleeves and stood up confidently. Quickly, invite the Nebula Sect's elder in. Yes. Li Qingyang turned and left. He was puzzled. Sect leader looks very happy? He lacked contribution points, but someone sent him 2 missions. Of course, sect leader Jun was happy. He couldn't wait to turn on the stereo and start dancing. Martial arts arena. The Iron Bone disciples stopped cultivating and stood behind the sect leader. Jun Changxiao sat on a chair with one leg propped up. He couldn't stop the smile from appearing on his face. Opposite, the Nebula Sect's elder stood proudly with his hands behind his back. Behind him stood 5 disciples. From their aura, they were definitely martial disciples, and their ranks weren't low. In Jun Changxiao's eyes, contribution points were floating above these people's heads. The system said, 5 disciples. From left to right 5th grade, 4th grade, 4th grade, 3rd grade and 2nd grade martial disciples. TSK. Jun Changxiao thought, worthy of being a 7th-rate sect. Their disciples are awesome. Sect leader Jun, Song Kai cupped his hands and said, your sect's disciples took the top 4 spots in the Great Sect competition. My Nebula Sect admires you. Today, I brought my disciples here to learn from you. The Nebula Sect also participated in the Great Sect competition. However, they sent their outer sect disciples. Their cultivation wasn't high, and they were eliminated in the last few rounds. It wasn't that they didn't want to send high-ranking disciples, but there was a clear rule in the inter-sect tournament. A disciple could only participate once, and they had to be under the age of 18. Jun Changxiao said, making friends through martial arts, exchanging pointers and discussing the Tao. Why aren't you welcoming them? Pa. All the disciples applauded in unison to welcome him. The corner of Song Kai's mouth twitched. Very quickly he said seriously, this song has brought 5 inner sect disciples from my Nebula Sect. I hope to have 5 one-on-one matches with your sect's disciples. What do you think, Sect Master Jun? Did this guy think that only Li Qingyang was stronger than Iron Bone? So he deliberately chose to have more people fight more battles? Jun Changshao said, sure. Qingyang. He waved his hand and said, go and spar with the guests who came from afar. Yes. Li Qingyang took a step forward, only to hear the sect leader whisper, give him a good beating. Beat him until he cries for his father and mother. The side mission was to beat the Nebula sect's disciples. If it was easy to defeat them, then it definitely wouldn't meet the requirements. Li Qingyang nodded and walked to the center of the martial arts practice field. Song Kai also sent out a disciple, who was the weakest of the 5, a second-grade martial disciple. Jun Changshao disdainfully said, my Wuxia ancestors played a leftover trick, and they still have the face to show it. Pa, with a snap of his fingers, a disciple came in with tea. Li Qingyang. Jia Tingying. Jun Changshao spat out a mouthful of tea. Both sides reported their names, and the battle began. Shua. Jia Tingying took the initiative and rushed forward. 2 fingers condensed spiritual light, and with a shwa 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 sound she stabbed out. This was a middle-grade mortal martial art quick shadow finger. From the speed and the appearance of the finger shadows, it showed that this person had been immersed in this technique for a long time. Otherwise it would be impossible to reach such a level. Li Qingyang put his hands behind his back and moved rhythmically, dodging the finger shadows. He defeated Mo Shangfei of the Sacred Spring Sect. Against a second-grade martial disciple, it could only be described as easy. Even if he kept stabbing until the sky turned dark, he might not even be able to touch the corner of his clothes. Jia Tingying knew that there was a big gap between her and her opponent. But as a martial artist, how could she admit defeat? She continued to use the quick shadow finger to poke wildly. Suddenly, Li Qingyang, who was dodging, grabbed her wrist with one hand and lightly pushed her away with his shoulder. Jia Tingying, who had retreated more than 10 steps, had not yet stabilized her body when a hand grabbed her collar and lifted her up forcefully. Plop. She flew 160 degrees and fell to the ground. Then, she flew 160 degrees in the opposite direction and fell to the ground again. Bang! 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 Li Qingyang, who was standing on the martial arts practice field, had one hand behind his back, and the other hand grabbed Jia Tingying's collar and threw her left and right. After a while, she was dizzy from being thrown around. Her mouth and eyes were crooked. Ding! Disciple brutally thrashing Star Cloud Sect Disciple 15. Li Qingyang's bullying met the requirement of brutality. One mission completed. Qingyang sparring and discussing Dao, that's enough. Jun Changshao said. Li Qingyang dragged Jia Tingying, who was foaming at the mouth, to the edge of the martial arts practice field and threw her out. Second senior brother won. The disciples immediately cheered. When the new disciples saw a martial disciple being brutally thrashed, they immediately worshipped their second senior brother. Humph! Song Kai snorted coldly. His disciple's defeat was within his expectations. Li Qingyang had already fought, so the Ironbone sect did not have any outstanding disciples. For the next 4 rounds, the Star Cloud sect would control the entire field. Indeed, they controlled the entire field. This was because the second disciple, who went up, was kicked all over the martial arts practice field by Li Fei. Every stone under his feet experienced the fear of being controlled by Li Fei's feet. In the end, he ran until he was exhausted. His nose was bruised and his face was swollen. Ding! Disciple thrashed Star Cloud Sect Disciple 25. After hearing the notification, Jun Changshao spread out his hands and said, sorry, my disciple was a little heavy-handed. Song Kai's old face fell. That Ironbone sect disciple was clearly only a second-grade martial disciple. How could he thrash his own third-grade martial disciple so miserably? If he knew that this was a man who had even kicked the sect leader down, he would understand. The problem was not big. The problem was not big. There were not many disciples who had the ability to fight above their level. As long as they won the next 3 rounds, it would be fine. Thinking of this, Song Kai raised his hand. The 4th-grade martial disciple walked up to the martial arts practice field. Jun Changshao originally planned to let Tianqi or Su Xiaoma fight, but before he could open his mouth, he saw 2 people appear at the gate. Who? Xiao Ziji and Yi Xingchen. Their hair was disheveled, and their faces were dirty. Their school uniforms were torn in strips. It was obvious that they were scratched by the claws of fierce beasts. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, "When you went out, you had an imposing appearance. How did you come back as refugees?" "Sect leader, we're back." Xiao Ziji grinned, revealing a row of neat white teeth. Just in time. Jun Changxiao waved his hand and said, "Star Cloud Sect has come to exchange pointers. You'll be the third opponent, right?" Ah. Xiao Ziji was dumbfounded. He and Yi Xingqian went deep into the mountain forest. In the end, they were chased by a group of fierce beasts. In the end, they risked their lives to escape. Then they returned to the sect. Without resting, they fought with others. This was too exciting. Chapter 122. Xiao Ziji had just returned and was already assigned to fight. This made him feel very excited. Yi Xingqian was not interested at all and was about to take a bath. "Xingqian," Jun Changxiao shouted, "you will fight in the 4th round. Let me see how much your strength has improved after this wilderness training." "Damn it! You want me to fight with a little brat?" Although he was unwilling, he still stopped and looked at the Star Cloud Sect disciple. His gaze was filled with the strong disdain of a martial emperor. Song Kai glanced at the two and said lightly, "Sect leader Jun, your 2 disciples look very tired. Isn't it a little too casual to send them?" "It's very casual," Jun Changxiao said. This tone, this meaning. It was as if he did not take the Star Cloud Sect seriously at all. "You," Song Kai suppressed his anger and said lightly, "If sect leader Jun doesn't feel that the Star Cloud Sect is bullying you, you can send them to fight." Haha. This must be what he wanted. Xiao Ziji did not even change his school uniform. He dragged his dirty body and stood on the training field. He cupped his hands and said, "Xiao Ziji." The Star Cloud Sect disciple looked at him and said, "So you are the champion of the intersect tournament?" Then, he cupped his hands in disdain and said, "Zhang Yi." In his opinion, this guy who did not open his meridians was very lucky to win the championship. If he participated, he would definitely beat him to a pulp. Not to mention, in the intersect tournament, with Xiao Ziji's strength, facing a rank 4 martial disciple would be a tragedy. But now, bang, 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 bang. After the fight began, the Star Cloud Sect disciple called Zhang Yi was beaten by Xiao Ziji's strong body and strength. He was spinning around in the training field dizzily. At this time, if the sound system was turned on, it would be very appropriate with a cat meowing song. Plop! Zhang Yi spun around for a while and fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth. As for the arrogant and disdainful expression just now, it was destined to be replaced by a dead fish face for a long time because of the beating. Ding! Disciple beat Star Cloud Sect Disciple 35. Not bad, not bad, Jun Changxiao said with satisfaction. After this experience, the improvement is very obvious. After dealing with his opponent, Xiao Ziji walked out of the training grounds and said, "Sect leader, I'm going to take a bath." "Go, go," Jun Changxiao said. Song Kai was dumbfounded. The disciple participating in the battle was a 4th grade martial disciple. From the aura of the Ironbone disciple, it seemed that he was only at the 6th stage of the channel opening realm. Xiao Ziji's cultivation was weak. However, ever since he opened his meridians, he was able to gather spirit energy in his body. Coupled with his highly tempered body, his combat strength had definitely skyrocketed. 4th grade martial disciple. Sorry, it's just a punching bag. They had lost 3 out of 5 matches. This time, the Nebula Sect, which was ordered by Alliance Master Qin to challenge the sect, had lost their face in front of Ironbone. Jun Changxiao said, "Elder Song, do you still want to spar?" "Spar," Song Kai said solemnly. They had already lost, but if they could win the next 2 matches and make it 2, 3, they could at least regain some face. "Xingqian, go on stage," Jun Changxiao said. Yi Xingqian snorted coldly and walked onto the training grounds. He pointed at the 5th grade martial disciple who was supposed to be the last to fight and said disdainfully, "You get up here." He directly chose the strongest. Brother Chen was very social. The nebulous Sect disciple who was pointed at glanced at Song Kai and walked onto the training grounds after receiving instructions. He looked at Yi Xingchen with a strong sense of disdain. He was the strongest among the 5 disciples brought by Song Kai. To be able to break through to the 5th grade martial disciple before the age of 20, he indeed had the qualifications to look down on others. However, he looked down on Su Xiaoma and Tian Qi. It was not a problem. However, the person he looked down on was one of the 10 great martial emperors, the Night Emperor. This was a big problem. Yi Xingchen, who was not interested in the battle between brats, saw the contempt and disdain in his eyes. His entire face immediately darkened. He clenched his fists and said coldly, "Kid, I will make you suffer." Pung. The nebulous Sect disciple bent his arms and clenched his fists. A wave of qi burst out and instantly tore his shirt, revealing a gaudy tattoo. It could be said that he was incomparably fierce. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "You didn't tear your pants. Bad. Untethered Peppa Pig. Bad." TSK. Yi Xingchen was disdainful. Song Kai said indifferently, "Sect leader Jun, this disciple of mine is proficient in 32 saber techniques. I wonder if we can use weapons in the battle?" "Yes," Jun Changshao said. Yi Xingchen's mouth twitched. Facing a 5th grade martial disciple with a weapon, this should at least give me a weapon to fight, right? Unfortunately, Jun Changshao did not intend to give him a weapon. Instead, he clasped his fingers and said, "This disciple of mine is proficient in 72 grappling techniques. He has always fought with his bare hands." Yi Xingchen's expression suddenly became interesting. The nebulous Sect disciple waved his hand and summoned his treasured saber from his spatial ring. The saber was not long and was similar to a watermelon knife. However, the blade shone brightly. It looked very sharp. Lu Kunlong. He reported his name. Yi Xingchen did not report his name. Instead, he was thinking about how he should deal with a 5th grade martial disciple with a weapon with his bare hands. Shua, shua, shua. At this moment, Lu Kunlong waved his saber. The saber shadows surrounded his body. Then, he raised his saber with one hand and stood in a golden rooster stance. He was indeed proficient in 32 saber techniques. What a professional! Good. Jun Changshao clapped his hands. Clap, clap, clap. The disciples behind him also clapped, as if they were watching that guy perform a saber show. Lu Kunlong said indifferently, "If you don't report your name, then I will use my saber." Trash. Yi Xingchen said indifferently. Shua. At this moment, Lu Kunlong took a step forward and waved his saber crazily. In an instant, dense saber shadows were intertwined. It looked very scary. Yi Xingchen retreated step by step, avoiding the saber intent that swept towards him. At the same time, he was looking for his opponent's weakness. The improvement of his spiritual root and his cultivation level reaching stage 12 made him more compatible with his body. Not only could he catch the saber shadows, but he could also dodge them in advance. However, once the opponent's 32 saber techniques were used, not only did it form an attack, but it also protected his body. It was difficult to find a weakness to counterattack. Shua, shua. Lu Kunlong's saber momentum increased, and more saber shadows appeared. Yi Xingchen realized that if he could not finish him off in the shortest time possible, once he was surrounded by an inescapable net of attacks, he could only be attacked passively. Damn it! A mere 5th grade martial disciple was enough to make this emperor feel helpless? Yi Xingchen's anger rose. The little bit of domineering aura that he had just recovered burst out instantly. Huff huff. The aura spread out invisibly. Lu Kunlong, who was using his saber technique, was enveloped by the aura. He suddenly stopped, his eyes filled with fear. At that moment, his soul seemed to have fallen into hell. His heart suffered endless torment. His hand went limp, and the saber he was holding fell to the ground with a clang. This kind of terrifying aura that came from a martial emperor's oppression disappeared in a flash. When Lu Kunlong regained his senses and realized that the saber had fallen, he saw that Yi Xingchen had already raised his waist, holding the saber in his hand. Brat. Night Emperor said coldly, "You can't even hold a saber, and you dare to use your saber technique in front of me." Shua. As he spoke, he swung his saber. Puchi, a deep saber mark appeared on Lu Kunlong's chest. Blood gushed out. You! His face became ferocious. Yi Xingchen stepped forward and said coldly, "Today, I will let you know that sabers are used to cut people, not for juggling." Shwa! The saber slashed down again. Blood splattered. Another saber mark appeared on Lu Kunlong's chest. He endured the pain and hurriedly turned around to run. Yi Xingchen chased after him with large strides. He raised his saber and slashed down. Puchi! Puchi! 1 slash, 2 slashes, 3 slashes. Poor Lu Kunlong. His equipment was picked up by Yi Xingchen and counterattacked. In the end, he lay on the ground covered in blood. Chapter 123. If it had been someone else, Lu Kunlong would not have been knocked to the ground. At most, he would have been beaten up. However, his opponent was Yi Xingchen. Who was he? One of the 10 great martial emperors. Not only had he killed people in his past life, but he had also killed many people. When his bones were piled up, they could form a mountain. He was definitely a ruthless character who killed without batting an eye. Thinking about how he had been chased by a group of vicious beasts and was now being looked down upon by a junior, Yi Xingchen's anger turned into killing intent. He raised his saber and slashed down again. Xingchen. Jun Changshao stopped him. It's just a spar. There's no need to kill. Yi Xingchen stopped slashing and threw the saber on the ground. He snorted. Sect leader, don't let me fight trash like this in the future. It's a waste of time. After saying that, he turned around and went to take a bath. He can actually counterattack a rank 5 martial disciple. Junior brother Yi is too awesome. The disciples exclaimed. Su Xiaomo was surprised. Junior brother Yi has grown so fast. If it were him, he could use his speed to fight against Lu Kunlong. But he definitely couldn't use his sword to counterattack like Yi Xingchen. Jun Changshao held his chin and said, there seemed to be a wave of qi just now. Because of the distance, he caught a glimpse of Yi Xingchen's domineering aura. Although it disappeared in a flash, it was terrifying. The system said, this is spiritual force. Spiritual force? When a martial artist's soul energy is strong, they can form spiritual force to intimidate others. Jun Changshao said, you mean, Xingchen's spiritual force shocked Lu Kunlong's mind. That's why his saber fell. That's right. The system said. Looking at the receding figure, Jun Changshao said to himself, this disciple of mine is not simple. Not just a little. The system said. Lu Kunlong could have exchanged blows with Yi Xingchen. However, his mind was disturbed by Xingchen's domineering aura, and he ended up being slashed to the ground. It was not that he was not strong, but that his opponent was too evil. Song Kai, who was standing at the back, retracted his condensed spiritual energy. Anger appeared in his eyes. If Yi Xingchen had dared to slash down, he would have attacked regardless of the consequences. After all, Lu Kunlong was the most valued inner disciple of the Nebulous Sect. Jun Changshao said, Elder Song, your Star Cloud sect has lost 4 rounds. Is there a need to continue? These words were very hurtful, causing Song Kai's heart to ache. He said solemnly, continue. If he stopped now, the score would be 4-0. However, if he insisted on continuing, the score would be 5-0. Because the next contestant was Lu Qianqian. This cold beauty of few words released a tsunami-like spiritual power as soon as she entered the arena, directly scaring the Nebulous Sect disciple to the ground. Bang! Bang! His spiritual energy transformed into small fists and pounded on that guy's chest. In the end, he spat out a mouthful of blood and passed out gloriously. The Ironbone disciple's mouths twitched. It turned out that our beautiful senior sister was even fiercer than Yi Xingchen when she fought. Long Xiang, Yang Yuhua, and the other new disciples secretly said, senior sister is the most ferocious person in the sect. Don't provoke her. Ding! Disciple thrashed Nebula Sect Disciple 55. Ding! Side mission completed. Host received 50 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 230500. Comfortable. Jun Changshao stood up and smiled. Elder Song, thank you for letting me win. Song Kai's entire face darkened. When he came, he promised Qin Haoran that he would definitely be able to kill the Ironbone disciples. In the end, he lost all 5 rounds and was shaved bald. If this news were to spread, it would definitely be embarrassing. Elder Song, Jun Changshao said again. I see that you don't look good. You seem to be unconvinced by your loss. How about this, you and I have a spar? Song Kai's expression suddenly froze. He couldn't bear the loss of his disciples. He was still thinking about whether to spar with that guy. He didn't expect the other party to take the initiative to speak. Very good, very good. Song Kai cupped his hands and said, since sect leader Jun has said so, I will respectfully accept. As he spoke, he walked to the center of the training field and fed Lu Kunlong a healing pill. Then he dragged him down. Jun Changshao walked over and thought, how much strength does this guy have? About 30,000. The system said. Only 30,000? Jun Changshao disdained. Although he was only an 8th grade martial disciple, his strength had long exceeded 20,000. The system said, this elder's aptitude is average. He is only an ordinary 1st grade martial master. The host has undergone physique transformation and muscle molding. Naturally, he is not an ordinary person. Oh, that's true, Jun Changshao said. It wasn't just him. Disciples who cultivated the body metamorphosis scripture took the body molding pill and went through the tempering of the body molding room. All had combat power far stronger than ordinary people. When they cultivated their spiritual roots and cultivation their strength. Just thinking about it made people's blood boil. The sect leader is about to make a move. When Jun Changshao stood in the middle of the training field, the Ironbone disciples immediately began to discuss. After all, the last time the sect leader made a move was when he tortured Ma Yongning. The Star Cloud sect's elder is a martial master. Can the sect leader win? A new disciple whispered. Nonsense, he can definitely win. The early disciples had 100% unconditional trust in Jun Changshao. The sect leader will win. The sect leader will win. Lu Wanxia raised her small fist and shouted. For a moment, the Ironbone disciples were motivated and shouted in unison, cheering for the sect leader. Humph. Song Kai lightly snorted, but on the surface he cupped his hands and said gracefully, Sect leader Jun, shall we compete with weapons or fists? Fists. Jun Changshao said. Song Kai said, all right. As he spoke, thick spiritual energy condensed in his palms. His aura was quite good. In the Falling Star continent, martial disciples were also known as the spirit condensation stage. It meant that they condensed spiritual energy and opened up a cyclone in their dantian. Martial masters were known as the spirit manipulation stage, because martial artists who reached this stage were more proficient in the absorption of spiritual energy and the use of spiritual energy. Although Song Kai was very mediocre in all aspects, he was still a genuine martial master. The spiritual energy in his palms was 2 streets ahead of a martial disciple. Kid, when the battle begins, I will defeat you in front of your disciples as quickly as possible to save the face of my Star Cloud sect. Song Kai said, Sect leader Jun, can we start? We can start, Jun Changshao said. Swish. Song Kai strode over and clenched his right hand into a fist. The spiritual energy in the cyclone instantly poured into it, and a visible wave of air suddenly appeared. It was quite urgent. Jun Changshao smiled faintly, raised his right palm and cut through the void and said, I slash. Shio, a crescent-shaped stream of light burst out. Song Kai raised his eyebrows. His right fist blasted out with a strong wind and violently broke it on the spot. His eyes were filled with strong disdain. However, when he looked at Jun Changshao, he saw that the guy's left and right hands seemed to have turned into 2 kitchen knives. He kept chopping as if he was chopping dumplings. I slash, I slash, I slash, I slash, I slash, I slash. Shio, 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 shio. In an instant, dozens of streaks of light shot out from different angles. This, Li Qingyang's mouth twitched. It was a little scary that the sect leader used, I slash, to such an extent. Of course Song Kai, who was a little disdainful at first, saw the dense streams of light rushing from all angles. His expression suddenly became interesting. Dodge, dodge, dodge. This was the thought in his heart. But he couldn't dodge at all. He could only condense his spiritual energy in a hurry and constantly bombard the incoming streams of light. Bang, bang, bang. Song Kai was still quite strong. He broke all the incoming streams of light. I slash. Sect leader Jun stood in the same place. He twisted his, but as if he was cheating, and continuously waved his hand. The crescent-shaped streams of light flew out with a shio sound. Facing this kind of endless bombardment, Elder Song, who was a martial master, could only passively defend. However, there were too many of them. In the end, he couldn't keep up with the speed of the attacks. He could only use his body parts to block them. Boom, boom, boom. 5 minutes later, Jun Changshao stood in the martial arts arena panting. Although the consumption of I/slash wasn't high, it couldn't be used so recklessly. Therefore, the energy of the cyclone in his dantian had been consumed by 70 to 80%. Song Kai stood outside the martial arts arena with trembling legs. In the end, he couldn't support his body and sat on the ground. Ding! Defeat the 7th Elder of the Star Cloud Sect, Song Kai. 1 point, Elite Mission. Ding! Side mission completed. Host receives 100 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points. 330500. Li Qingyang and the other disciples looked at the sect leader with admiration. There was only one thought in their minds: awesome. Chapter 124. Song Kai was defeated before he could even get close to Jun Changshao. This was undoubtedly a tragedy. It wasn't that he wasn't strong. It was that Jun Changshao was cheating. The self-slash was modified by a mysterious almighty and consumed very little energy. If it were any other martial master, they wouldn't be able to withstand it. Of course, due to the realm, it was difficult to perfectly display the power of the self-slash. It only made Song Kai's body sore and consumed a lot of spiritual energy. If Jun Changshao was a martial master, Elder Song wouldn't have collapsed to the ground. Instead, he would have been a corpse lying on the ground. In any case, an 8th grade martial disciple defeating a martial master was already powerful enough. If it was a martial technique from the Falling Star continent, unless it was of high quality, it would be extremely difficult to achieve this. Sect leader is mighty. Sect leader is mighty. After being stunned for a moment, the disciples cheered excitedly. When the new disciples saw the sect leader defeating a martial master with the cultivation of a martial disciple, they immediately prostrated themselves in worship. Elder Song, Jun Changshao cupped his fists and said, "Thank you for letting me win." After completing 2 side missions and obtaining 150 contribution points, he was in a good mood. Song Kai endured the pain and stood up. His weak face was filled with anger. The energy streams were obviously not very powerful, but there were too many of them, causing him to be unable to deal with them. He was really unwilling to accept this. Jun Changshao said, "Elder Song, if you are not convinced, you can choose another day to spar with my sect. I welcome you at any time." Song Kai snorted coldly and cupped his fists. "Goodbye." After saying that, he left with the injured disciples in disgrace. Originally, they were ordered by Alliance Master Qin to deliberately cause trouble at the Ironbone sect. In the end, they were defeated 6-0, embarrassing themselves to the extreme. Clean up the martial arts practice field and continue to cultivate, Jun Changshao said. Yes. The disciples hurriedly fetched water to wash away the bloodstains on the martial arts practice field. Then, they cleaned it up and cultivated as usual. Senior Brother Su, the sect leader is really strong. Of course. Was what the sect leader used just now a spiritual martial technique? Of course. Senior Brother Su, can we learn it? As long as you break through to martial disciple, you can cultivate unconditionally. The new disciple's eyes burned with passion, and his desire to become stronger became even more resolute. Long Xiang, who was sitting to the side, thought to himself, this iron bone was indeed the right choice. I also need to break through to martial disciple as soon as possible. He had joined the Iron Bone Club not because he had seen the advertisement, but because he had heard about how Li Qingyang had defeated Mo Shangfei, using a spiritual force martial skill on Spirit Spring Mountain. To be exact, he had come for me. Long Xiang secretly praised his decision to join the Iron Bone sect, after witnessing the sect leader's display of power as a martial disciple and exhausting a martial master. Wait until I practice this unfathomable martial skill. When I return to the clan, I will definitely shock all of you. Boom. Li Fei waved his hand and said, Junior brother Long, why are you in a daze? Come and play with us. Mom, it's too scary. I want to go home now. Yi Xingqian and Xiao Ziji took a shower and changed into a clean set of school uniforms. They were called to the study by Jun Changxiao. Not bad, not bad. Sect Master Jun crossed his legs and placed them on the desk. You didn't disappoint me during this training. Seeing him like this, Yi Xingqian wanted to rush up and press his head on the table, then raise his fist and beat him up. Sect leader, Xiao Ziji said, this disciple obtained a lot of crystal nuclei in the wild. Is that so? Jun Changxiao said. Xiao Ziji waved his hand, and the crystal nuclei in the interspatial ring appeared on the ground. There were quite a few of them, about 40 to 50. Among them, some were personally killed by him, and some were shot by the Type 88 sniper rifle. The highest was a peak vicious beast, and the lowest was a low second grade. So many? Jun Changxiao was surprised. He chose a few suitable crystal nuclei to make bullets for Xiao Ziji, and took the rest. Crystal nuclei had many uses, so he could keep them for now. Idiot. Yi Xingqian secretly said. So many crystal nuclei to sell, in exchange for martial arts resources. Wouldn't that be perfect? Why did he have to foolishly pay? Sect leader, Xiao Ziji said honestly, junior brother Yi also has a few crystal nuclei. Yi Xingqian's mouth twitched, and there were tens of thousands of grass mud horses running wildly in his heart. Jun Changxiao looked over with a smile. Can you keep one? No. Yi Xingqian reluctantly took out a few crystal nuclei from his chest and put them on the table. Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes and said, Don't you feel uncomfortable putting this stone-like thing in your chest? Yi Xingqian was silent. Yes, it was a little uncomfortable. Here. Jun Changxiao threw an interspatial ring and said, This is an interspatial ring. It can hold things. Damn it. This guy thinks that I haven't even heard of an interspatial ring? At that moment, the prideful Night Emperor couldn't wait to throw the interspatial ring on the ground and step on it. There are 5 meridian opening pills, 5 chi gathering pills, and 1 chi revolving pill in the ring. The chi revolving pill can quickly condense a chi revolving pill and break through to the martial disciple level. Jun Changxiao said. Yi Xingqian put it on his middle finger and thought, the size is just right. Xin Ji Xingqian, Jun Changxiao said, I have divided the inner and outer sect. The 2 of you are inner sect disciples, so work hard and don't let me down. He took out a bottle of aptitude-changing liquid and threw it to Xiao Ziji, saying, This is an aptitude-changing liquid suitable for mortal spiritual roots. Take it and consume it. Xiao Ziji hurriedly caught it, and a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. He, who had consumed the aptitude-changing liquid before, naturally knew how heaven-defying this thing was. Aptitude-changing liquid? Yi Xingqian said blankly, What is this? Jun Changxiao said, It's a type of liquid that can immediately increase the quality of your spiritual roots after consumption. Yi Xingqian's expression suddenly became sluggish. It can change the quality of spiritual roots, and immediately? That was nonsense, wasn't it? As a former martial emperor, he had never heard of a medicine that could change spiritual roots in the Falling Star continent. There was none in this world, but there was one in the system store. Gulp. At that moment, Xiao Ziji anxiously opened the bottle and swallowed the liquid. Huff huff. In just a moment, white smoke rose from his body, and then his temperament changed. Yi Xingqian's eyes widened. He could feel that not only did Xiao Ziji's temperament change, but his cultivation level also seemed to have increased. And this happened in the blink of an eye. Oh my God! Is there really such a heaven-defying medicine in this world? Jun Changxiao said, Xing Chun, you have a low-grade spiritual root. I have a bottle that is suitable for low-grade spiritual roots. Wait! Yi Xingchen raised his hand and said, Sect Master, let me calm down first. Huff! He patted his face, rubbed his eyes, and looked at Xiao Ziji again. After confirming that this guy's temperament had changed greatly, he said seriously, Sect Master, it's suitable for low-grade spiritual roots, so it's only effective for low-grade spiritual roots? That's right. Jun Changxiao said, low-grade spiritual roots can break through to the mortal grade, and mortal-grade spiritual roots can be upgraded to the medium grade. Your senior brother Xiao used the mortal-grade spiritual root, and now he has a medium-grade spiritual root. Yi Xingchen hurriedly said, Sect Master, I actually have a mortal-grade spiritual root. When I filled in the sect application form, I deliberately hid it. You have a mortal-grade spiritual root? Jun Changxiao was surprised. Yes, Yi Xingchen said. At this time, he could not hide it. After all, he could give a mortal-grade spiritual root. If he gave a low-grade spiritual root, it would be useless. Jun Changxiao thought to himself, since this guy has a mortal-grade spiritual root, I can save a bottle of aptitude-changing liquid. Chapter 125. Yi Xingchen originally planned to hide his spirit root. After all, the Taishan Sutra was one of the two biggest secrets in his heart. The other secret was his rebirth. However, he had no choice but to tell the truth. If he was only given one bottle and a low-grade one, he would not be able to improve his spirit root. The higher the comprehension of the Taishan Sutra, the stronger the spirit root. However, it would take time. Yi Xingchen wanted to improve his spirit root as soon as possible. Jun Changxiao thought, since you have a mortal-grade spirit root, I will save 50 points to buy a low-grade one. Here, take it. He threw the mortal-grade aptitude-modifying liquid over. Yi Xingchen caught it and asked cautiously, Sect leader, will there be any side effects after taking this medicine? That was a very professional question. In the Falling Star continent, there were pills that could forcibly improve one's cultivation. Although one could break through after taking it, one could only rely on pills in the future. Until one reached a certain level, it would be difficult to improve one's cultivation level without stronger pills. Jun Changxiao said, if you're worried, you don't have to take it. Yi Xingchen did not say anything else. He walked out of the study and returned to his residence. Then, he closed the door and looked down at the aptitude-modifying liquid in his hand. He was considering whether to take it or not. Yi Xingchen. Back then, you went through a lot for the Taishan Sutra. Now, you're still thinking about the medicine to improve your aptitude? Smack. He opened the bottle and drank it. Whoosh, whoosh. After the liquid entered his body, his meridians, blood, muscles, and even every inch of his skin transformed. His spirit root also entered the medium grade from the mortal grade in an instant. Because it was stage 12 meridian opening, there was no cyclone. It only improved his aptitude, but it did not increase his cultivation level. Yi Xingchen said in shock. Unbelievable. The Taishan Sutra could improve one's aptitude, because it was a supreme cultivation technique that surpassed the divine grade. A bottle of medicine could do it easily. It was completely beyond his knowledge of medicine. Could it be a celestial medicine from the upper realm? Yi Xingchen guessed. The upper realm was a higher existence than the Falling Star continent. Only martial emperors, and those who had broken through the void were qualified to go there. That was an even more vast world. Even he, who had once dominated the continent, would be as insignificant as an ant in that world. But that didn't stop Yi Xingchen from longing for it, because it was said that the secret of immortality could be found there. The lifespan of the creatures in the world of martial arts was very long, but there would be a day when they would burn out. Therefore, having an unlimited lifespan was the lifelong pursuit of the strong. Yi Xingchen said with a solemn expression, if it's an immortal medicine from the upper realm, then this Jun Changxiao must be extraordinary to be able to give it to his disciples so casually. He had never taken the sect leader seriously, but after consuming the aptitude-altering elixir, there was a slight change in his mentality. Coincidentally, Jun Changxiao was also trying to figure him out in the room. He thought to himself, he hid the fact that he has a mortal-grade spiritual root. Do you really think I, the sect leader, am a fool? Yuanfang, what do you think? The system pondered for a moment before saying, to be able to upgrade a low-grade spiritual root to a common grade in such a short time, there must be something fishy about this. Isn't that obvious? Jun Changxiao said. The system said, according to my research on the falling star continent, there is no way to forcefully upgrade a spiritual root in this world. Unless what? A mental cultivation method above the divine grade. Isn't the divine grade the highest? Jun Changxiao was surprised. The system said, there are many types of martial arts in the falling star continent. After countless years, they have been divided into different grades by the later generations. However, there are some rare martial arts that are not included in this list. For example, Jun Changxiao asked. The system said, tens of thousands of years ago, a peerless expert appeared in the falling star continent. He called himself the Old Man of Taishan. He created 2 mental cultivation methods that were known as peerless treasures. One of them was the Taishan Ice Heart Technique, and the other was the Taishan Sutra. The names sound awesome, Jun Changxiao said. The system said, 10,000 years ago, a fortuitous person obtained one of the fragments of the Supreme Profound Ice Heart incantation. Later, he cultivated it to great perfection and advanced to martial emperor. Then, he established the Supreme Profound Holy Sect. Even now it is still a first-rate sect. Jun Changxiao was surprised. He created a first-rate sect with just a remnant mental cultivation method? Is he really that awesome? The system said, the Old Man of Taishan is a legendary figure. The 2 mental cultivation methods he created are regarded as being above the divine grade. The Taishan Ice Heart Technique has been found. Only the Sutra of Taishan is missing. Many Wuxia and martial emperors have been searching for it their whole lives. Jun Changxiao rubbed his hands and said, even I want to look for it. The system poured cold water on him. This kind of magical mental cultivation method can only be found by the protagonist of a novel. Host, don't count on it. You should just rely on the system to get rich. That's true. Jun Changxiao dispelled the idea of looking for a peerless mental cultivation method and said, Yi Xingchen's spirit root improved. Did he cultivate a peerless divine grade mental cultivation method? Most likely. The system didn't dare to be 100% sure. Jun Changxiao rubbed his chin and said, if this guess is correct, he can obtain a peerless mental cultivation method. Doesn't that mean he has a protagonist's life? A genius turned into trash, and the other obtained a peerless mental cultivation method. Aya, my little iron bone is full of all kinds of protagonist-level bosses. Just thinking about training them makes me a little shy. The system said, host, you can trick Yi Xingchen. If you have a peerless divine grade mental cultivation method, you can trick him to cultivate it. Jun Changxiao spread his hands and said, didn't you just say that I can just rely on the system to get rich? What's the use of learning other people's martial arts? The system was speechless. Jun Changxiao didn't try to trick Yi Xingchen. The main reason was that even if he did have a peerless mental cultivation method, he definitely wouldn't say it. If he accidentally made him vigilant and worried that his martial arts method would be stolen, he would escape from the sect. Then the loss would outweigh the gain. Moreover, the items bought from the system were also very heaven-defying. Why would he waste time and effort to cultivate such a profound mental cultivation method? Since he didn't want to find out about the mental cultivation method, the only thing he could do was to cooperate with Yi Xingchen and pretend that he was a normal person. If Jun Changxiao knew that this disciple not only obtained the peerless mental cultivation method that he and the system just talked about, but was also a reincarnated martial emperor, he would probably jump from his bed to the roof. The night was long, and no one was in the mood to sleep. Jun Changxiao stopped cultivating and muttered, let's refresh the system store and see if I can find something good. Ding! Sect contribution points. 220500. After refreshing, new items appeared. Jun Changxiao scanned through them one by one, his eyes fixed on a product called dazzling light sunglasses. Sunglasses were also for sale, and they were dazzling. He clicked on the detailed description. Item: dazzling light sunglasses. Effect: after wearing it, the user can use their mind to activate the prying function and quickly analyze the target's spirit root, cultivation, strength, weapon, protective gear, and other data. Time limit: use immediately. Price: 50 contribution points. Note: dazzling light sunglasses can only be used by the host. The degree of prying depends on the host's cultivation. Powerful cultivators, or those with cultivation methods and treasures, will not be displayed. Jun Changxiao was overjoyed. This is awesome. Although the system could roughly detect the target's cultivation and strength, it would not look at the spirit root, weapon, or protective gear's grade. Buy. He clicked on it without hesitation. Ding. The host has spent 50 contribution points and obtained dazzling light sunglasses X1. It has been transferred to the spatial ring. Ding. Sect contribution points 170500. Before Jun Changxiao's mind could enter the spatial ring to take out the dazzling light sunglasses he just bought, a sound rang in his ears. Ding. Side mission activated. Another mission. He pulled open the system's data panel. The content was Kill the Assassin 05 incomplete. TSK. This drizzle building really never gets tired of it. They sent another assassin. Pung. At this time, the sound of gunfire came from outside. After Xiao Ziji fired the first shot, he quickly moved the Type 88 sniper rifle. The scope of the scope locked onto the distant mountain rock. Ding. Killed the assassin 15. At the same time the notification sounded, Jun Changxiao climbed up the sentry tower. He put his hand on the stone platform that was used as a cover and said, "Where are the other 4? They are all behind the rock." Xiao Ziji said. N. The 4 assassins stuck to the back of the rock and did not dare to show their heads. Especially when they saw the dead bodies of their companions. A chill ran down their spines, and their scalps became numb. Chapter 126. The 4 assassins hid behind the boulder, trembling like frightened cats. With a loud bang, the assassin's head burst open. This sudden change was too frightening. They had also received professional training, so their mental fortitude was extremely high. If it was a normal martial artist, if their mental fortitude wasn't strong enough, they would definitely be paralyzed on the ground. Calm down, calm down. The 4 assassins hid behind the boulder and took a deep breath. Their mental fortitude gradually calmed down, and the fear in their eyes weakened a lot. "Fourth brother, we've been discovered." What kind of hidden weapon was that flying light? It could actually kill 5th brother in an instant. This iron bone is a bit strange, let's retreat. Just as they were discussing, Jun Changxiao put on the dazzling light ink mirror, and in front of him appeared all kinds of precise analysis scenes. Damn, it's really professional. Give me the gun. Xiao Ziji handed over the Type 88 sniper rifle. Jun Changxiao held the gun, his eyes on the 8x scope, and lightly said, "Since you dared to assassinate me, don't even think about leaving." Ding. The host has successfully activated the 8x scope enhancement mode, using 5 contribution points. Ding. Sect contribution points 165,500. This guy activated the cheat. Under the X-ray vision, the 4 assassins were exposed to the scope. "Fourth brother, I also agreed to retreat. This iron bone is definitely not ordinary, the plan needs to be changed. Fourth brother, we can wait for them to leave the sect, then secretly set up an ambush and kill them one by one." That's a good idea, but the leader called fourth brother frowned. "The flying light just now was extremely fast. I'm afraid we'll be attacked again after we leave. We can rush out from different directions. The enemy will definitely be at a loss." "I agree. I also agree." The assassin called fourth brother thought for a bit and said, "Let's go down the mountain and meet at the same place." "Meet at the same place? Sorry, you won't have the chance." Jun Changxiao, who was eavesdropping on their conversation, raised the corner of his mouth into a sneer. I've already activated the cheat. If you guys can escape under my nose, how will I have the face to meet the gods in the future? The four assassins didn't immediately move, calmly analyzing the escape route before reaching an agreement. Let's move. They moved to the left and right sides of the boulder. To be honest, the fact that these assassins were able to remain calm and come up with a new plan when the situation was extremely disadvantageous to them was truly very professional. After getting into position, they looked at each other, and the one called fourth brother rushed over first. Buzz! The black shadow flashed, and the crosshairs on the screen of the sunglasses instantly locked on, quickly analyzing the realm peak martial disciple. Actually, there were many more functions, but Jun Changxiao only activated the realm for now. Peak martial disciple? TSK, you're not weak. Shua. Shua. Right at this moment, the other three black-clothed men rushed in from the left and right sides. They were all 9th grade martial disciples. No wonder he was so calm, so professional and so strong. Boom! At this moment an explosion was heard. A stream of light shot out from the muzzle and pierced through the chest of one of the assassins. Boom! Boom! The muzzle of the gun moved, and the other two assassins were also pierced through their chests. Then they fell to the ground like broken leaves. 3 shots, not a single one missed. 8th brother, 7th brother. The assassin called 4th brother saw that his companions were all dead, and grief appeared in his eyes. However, there was no time to think, and he quickly rushed down the slope. Iron Bone, I'll be back. As he spoke, he jumped up, spread his arms, and jumped down like an eagle spreading its wings to pounce on its prey. Boom! The loud sound was heard again. The assassin's heart was suddenly filled with a strong sense of death. He looked back in horror, and saw a stream of light shoot through the grass and trees. No! He turned pale with fright. Boom! The bullet hit between his buttocks, and he fell to the ground and died miserably. Sect leader Jun couldn't be blamed for his actions, but that guy curled up into a ball after jumping, leaving only his buttocks to hit. Idiot! Jun Changxiao put away his gun and took off his sunglasses. Why didn't you just jump down and be done with it? Why did you have to jump so confidently like a martial arts expert? Ding! Assassins killed 55. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the side mission. You have received 100 Sect contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 265,500. That's a lot of contribution points. The system said, the higher the cultivation of the target killed, the higher the reward. So that's how it is. Jun Changxiao threw the gun to Xiao Ziji and got down from the fort. The latter said in admiration, Sect leader didn't have shoulder pads, but he didn't even move after shooting 4 times. He's simply too strong. What made him even more shocked was that he found the bodies of the 4 assassins. All 3 of them had been shot in the chest, where their hearts were, without any error. This spear technique was so terrifying. Xiao Ziji secretly said, I have to work harder too. I have to learn Sect leader's godly spear technique as soon as possible. Young man, give up on this unrealistic idea. No matter how strong your technique is, you can't compare to a cheat-like deity. The 5 assassins each had a spatial ring, but there wasn't anything valuable inside. Jun Changxiao used Ling Long fire to burn it, and then returned to the sect. No. Sitting in the study, his hands clasped together, his gaze cold. Drizzle building must be dealt with as soon as possible. The system said. Didn't the host want to use it to earn contribution points? At first, that was what Jun Changxiao thought. But after hearing the assassin's conversation, especially about the ambush outside, he had to reconsider. Disciples cultivating in the sect would definitely be safe. But going out to train or doing things was a must. If the assassins from Drizzle building used that kind of tactic, it would be troublesome. His disciples were his own flesh and blood. He definitely couldn't tolerate them being killed. The best way was to eliminate the threat, even if he didn't earn any contribution points. I've decided. Jun Changxiao's killing intent spread out. Destroy Drizzle building. If it was a sect, he might consider whether to destroy it or not. But if it was a dark and evil organization, even if he destroyed 100 of them, he would still feel that he was being very righteous. Here came the problem. Where was Drizzle building? Jun Changshao scratched his head and said regretfully, "If I knew, I would have left one alive to follow them." "That's right." He slapped his forehead. "There are still 2 assassins at Iron Bone." During this period of time, the 2 assassins performed very well in the cafeteria. Because the food was too fragrant, they even forgot that they were assassins and fully immersed themselves in the role of waiters. The next day, Jun Changshao let Lu Wanshur cook a sumptuous meal and placed it neatly on the table. He smiled. "The 2 of you, are you used to living in my iron bone?" Gulp. Looking at the sumptuous food on the table, the 2 assassins swallowed their saliva and hurriedly nodded. Used to it, used to it." Jun Changshao said. "You came to kill this lord, and this lord repaid your hatred with kindness by providing you with food and shelter. No matter what, you should express your gratitude, right?" The 2 assassins were speechless. "Big brother, you locked us up before. What does this have to do with repaying hatred with kindness?" Sect Master Jun, the gold medal assassin, said. "How do you want to thank us?" Jun Changshao said, "Very simple. Tell me the location of Drizzle Building's headquarters." The 2 assassins were startled. An unyielding aura suddenly appeared around them as they said in unison, "No comment. Assassins must have the professionalism of assassins. Being a helper here was already very spineless. How could they betray the organization? Not saying even if they were beaten to death." Seeing that they were quite unyielding, Jun Changshao clapped his hands and said, "Gulp, pour this rice into the bucket and feed it to the cows and sheep." Lu Wanshur walked over and held 2 bowls of fried rice. She said sadly with tears in her eyes, "Brother Ihe, Brother Arii, these dishes were personally made by Gulp for you. It's a pity to throw it away." The 2 assassins lowered their heads. Sigh. Lu Wanshur carried the fried rice to the bucket. Just as she was about to pour it in, the gold medal assassin clenched his fists and said in a low voice, "Sect Master Jun, if we tell you, can we always stay in Iron Bone?" Jun Changshao said, "Yes. I'll tell you." Chapter 127. The 2 assassins put down their professionalism and told her about their organization. It was not because of the sumptuous meal, nor the 2 bowls of fried rice, but because of Lu Wanshur. They were imprisoned in Iron Bone, just like prisoners. When they came to the cafeteria to do chores, Lu Wanshur did not treat herself as a prisoner, but as a friend. Not only did she cook delicious food, she would also ask about assassins. At first they resisted, but as time passed, their cold hearts were gradually moved by the innocent and cute Lu Wanshur. They forgot their identity as assassins and treated themselves as waiters. They even took the initiative to talk to the little girl about their past after the disciple ate. "Brother Ihe, Brother Arii." One day, Lu Wanshur held her chin and asked, "You hide in the dark all day, hiding in the dark. Aren't you afraid and lonely?" The speaker had no intention, but the listener had a heart. The 2 assassins put down their bowls and chopsticks and were silent for a long time. No one was born cold-blooded, and no one was born heartless. Who would like the days of being accompanied by the dark all day and walking on a tightrope on the edge of a knife? Lu Wanshur's words touched the 2 assassins' cold hearts. Just now, when they saw her holding 2 bowls of fried rice with tears in her eyes, they felt heartache for the first time. "Brother Ihe, Brother Arii, every dish that Duda makes, every bowl of rice, is filled with feelings. You must finish it. There can't be any waste." This was a sentence that Lu Wanshur often said. So when she stood in front of the swill bucket, the 2 assassins finally gave up the quality that an assassin should have. In order to not let the innocent and cute little girl be sad, they would rather bear the crime of betraying the organization for a bowl of rice. These 2 assassins were not too cold. After getting the exact coordinates of the Drizzle building, Jun Changshao looked at the 2 assassins who were wolfing down their food and said, "In this period of time, I have seen your performance. you can join Iron Bone. However, he paused and said in a deep voice, once a person of iron bone for a day, a person of iron bone for a lifetime. A difference of a year, a difference of a day, or a difference of 2 hours is not a lifetime, so I need your absolute loyalty. Sect leader, please rest assured. Lu Wanxia raised her hand and said with a serious look in her eyes, I will use my life to guarantee for Brother Ihei and Brother Arii that they will definitely be loyal to Iron Bone. The two killers put down their bowls and chopsticks. Their mouths were full of rice, and their tears flowed down uncontrollably. I blacked out. I'm Arii. Even if he were to die, he would stay in Iron Bone and be at Lu Wanxia's beck and call. All right. Jun Changshao snapped his fingers and said, Qingyang, go get the entry form. Yes. After filling in the first and second black forms and stamping them with the sect master's seal, the number of Iron Bone disciples increased from 148 to 150, and the contribution points increased to 267 points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission. Renounce the darkness for the light. The reward is 50 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points. 317,500. This hidden mission was definitely related to the forward idiom. Ma Yongning, who was standing in front of the kitchen, held his knife and looked at the two assassins. He said disdainfully, useless guys. Uncle Ma. Lu Wanxia waved her hand and blinked her big eyes as she shouted, do you want to join Iron Bone? Little girl, you're underestimating Uncle Ma's dignity as a swordsman. Ding! Sect members, 151500. Ding! Sect contribution points, 318,500. Sect Hall. Li Qingyang said seriously, Sect Master, you asked about the location of the Drizzle Building's headquarters. Could it be? That's right. Jun Changshao clasped his fingers together and said with a cold gaze, we'll wipe them out in one go. Li Qingyang said, according to Ihei, the Drizzle Building's leader is a 5th-grade martial master. There are also 4 ace assassins at the peak of martial disciple level. They are almost comparable to a 7th-rate sect. Not to mention, he paused and said, this kind of assassin organization likes to hide in the dark and is extremely good at sneak attacks. It will be very difficult to wipe them out in one go. At any time, Li Qingyang would analyze rationally. Qingyang, the best way to deal with this kind of shady organization is to be even more shady than them and be even more secretive. Jun Changshao said. Li Qingyang understood. The sect master wanted to use the assassin's best method to wipe out the Drizzle Building. Jun Changshao said, you will temporarily take care of the sect. Zui Ji and I will deal with those disgusting flies hiding in the dark. Li Qingyang originally wanted to go with them, but he remembered that the sect master was a man of his word. He nodded and said, I will take care of Iron Bone. The Drizzle Building was not in Qingyang County. It was in a deep mountain forest in the outer county. This organization had existed in the Jianghu for a long time. Their business was, if you give me money, I'll help you get rid of disasters. Many sects or martial artists had enemies that needed to be dealt with. They would often contact the Drizzle Building through underground channels and send assassins to deal with all their problems. The internal division of the Drizzle Building was very clear. The building master was the highest commander, followed by the ace assassin, gold assassin, and silver assassin. First black was a gold assassin, and second black was a silver assassin. This kind of organization had strict rules. Betraying the organization, accepting a mission without permission, or not returning late would basically be sentenced to death. First black and second black knew that they had broken the rules by not returning late, so they were one of the reasons why they confessed. Bang! Suddenly, the quiet forest was broken by a loud sound, startling the birds and beasts. Swoosh! Swoosh! 2 black figures flew out from the dark and landed under a big tree. Seeing that their companion's chest was pierced, they immediately became alert. They looked towards the direction of the gunshot and found that there was no one except for the big tree and bushes. Damn it! Who has the guts to ambush our drizzle-building assassins in the dark? One of the black figures said angrily. Bang! At this moment, a gunshot came from the side. Hot blood splashed on his face. His companion beside him also fell to the ground with a hole in his chest. That drizzle-building assassin was so scared that his scalp was about to explode. He quickly turned around and tried to escape. Just as he turned around, a cold object was pressed against his forehead. Jun Changshao, who was wearing sunglasses and holding a cigar, held the Desert Eagle in his right hand. When he pulled the trigger, he said calmly, "May there be no guns in heaven." Bang! The gunshot sounded again, shaking the leaves until they fell. After taking care of the 3 drizzle-building assassins, Jun Changshao habitually searched his body. After making sure that there was nothing good, he gestured to Xiao Ziji in the dark and quickly disappeared. Not long after, the drizzle-building assassins who were alarmed by the gunshot all rushed over. When they saw that their 3 companions had died, their eyes were filled with killing intent. This was their territory, and they were ambushed by others. 1, 2, 3. Xiao Ziji, who was leaning against the mossy rock and covered in weeds, looked like he was wearing a ghillie suit. He was counting the number of targets. 10 people, huh? Xiao Ziji's eyes leaned on the scope and aimed at the chest of an assassin. Then he pulled the trigger. With a bang sound, the bullet shot out and directly pierced through the chest of 2 assassins who were close to each other. Jun Changshao, who was sitting on a tree branch far away, saw this and grinned. 1 against 2, not bad, not bad. After taking care of the 2 assassins, Xiao Ziji picked up the Type 88 sniper rifle and bent down to hide in the grass. With the help of the ghillie suit, he changed to another hiding place. Only in the complicated forest could it be considered a ghost duel between a sniper and an assassin. However, from the looks of it, the drizzle-building assassins were in the open, while Xiao Ziji was hiding in the dark. Chapter 128. Sha. In the dark forest, Xiao Ziji, who seemed to be wearing a ghillie suit, jumped out from the pile of rocks. Just now, he fired another shot and killed one of the drizzle-building assassins on the spot. This guy was really like a ghost. It was impossible to guard against him. Jun Changshao, who was hiding in the dark, did not make a move. In his opinion, this kind of harsh forest environment was undoubtedly the best opportunity to train Xiao Ziji. The frequent gunshots and the death of 6 of their companions angered the drizzle building. More assassins rushed out. There were about 30 to 50 of them. Among them, there was no lack of gold-ranked assassins. They judged that the guy hiding in the dark had some kind of hidden weapon, so they would deliberately stay close to cover when searching. It was useless. As long as they were locked on by Xiao Ziji in the dark, even if the gold-ranked assassin heard the gunshot, he would not be able to dodge in time and would be directly pierced through the chest. The Type 88 sniper rifle was just that ruthless. Jun Changshao thought to himself, if an AWM was spawned, it would definitely be more exciting to fight. Bang! Bang! An hour later, Xiao Ziji fired 10 shots and killed 11 people, not missing a single shot. However, the weakness was that the sniper rifle's sound was too loud. He could only change his position after each shot. Otherwise, if he stayed in the same place, he would definitely be discovered. After training with Yi Xingchen in the wild, he was better adapted to fighting in the wild. Sometimes, he would lie still in the bushes, and it would be difficult for the assassins to discover him. Jun Changshao said, "The sniper rifle's power is not bad, but it's too loud. It would be perfect if there was a silencer." Xiao Ziji sat on a tree branch. He communicated with his mind and inserted the crystal into the groove of the magazine. After filling the magazine with 10 bullets, he skillfully pulled the bolt and loaded the gun. This movement was very professional. There's someone on the tree. A gold-ranked assassin relied on his assassin's intuition to discover Xiao Ziji, and then shouted loudly. If it was before, it would be them hiding in the dark, not daring to make any noise. Now that it was the other way around, it was a bit ironic. Shua. After the gold-ranked assassin who had reached the level of rank 3 martial disciple notified his companions, He jumped up in the next second and waved his right hand. Swish! Swish! 3 beams of cold light shot out from different directions. Xiao Ziji didn't even look in the mirror and directly fired a shot. The stream photon bullet burst out, shattering the hidden weapon and penetrating the opponent's chest. Due to the shoulder shot, the recoil caused him to fly out of the tree. Then, he spun in the air and landed on the ground. Then, he dove into the bushes like a wild cat. As soon as he left, a few killers rushed over. However, he only saw the corpses of his companions and did not see anyone on the tree. TSK, this kid used the recoil to retreat and then calmly escaped. He is indeed a natural sniper. Jun Changxiao praised. There's someone here. Suddenly, a shout came from the tree behind him. Boom! Jun Changxiao raised his Desert Eagle and fired a shot behind him, killing the silver medal assassin. Noisy, he said indifferently. Shwa! With a tap of his feet, he flew away from his original spot. 2 hours later, Xiao Ziji, who was hiding in the dark, fired 2 rounds of bullets and killed more than 20 killers. Jun Changxiao did not make any more moves and secretly observed the situation. Drizzle Building was enraged and sent out more than 50 killers. Although they could not find the person hiding in the dark, they gradually opened up a large net, according to the gunshots, and formed an encirclement. As long as they kept shrinking, they would definitely find him. Goo goo. The sound of birds could be heard. Xiao Ziji, who had already revealed his gun and was about to shoot, put away his Type 88 sniper rifle and quietly left their encirclement. He hid in a cave a few miles away. Not long after, Jun Changxiao came. Sect leader. Xiao Ziji did not understand. Why did you retreat? Jun Changxiao sat down and took a puff of his cigar. Will killers continue to fight after killing? No, Xiao Ziji said. Jun Changxiao said. So today we are only giving Drizzle Building a greeting gift. There will be more exciting things later. No matter if the killer killed the target or not, as long as they made a move, they would not continue to fight and would immediately disappear. Jun Changxiao told Xiao Ziji to retreat because he wanted to give them a taste of their own medicine and make them feel like they had nothing left to live for. Drizzle Building's headquarters was not a pavilion, but a natural cave on the mountain wall not far from the waterfall. Killing people naturally offended a lot of forces, but by relying on the complex terrain of the cave, they were able to avoid being destroyed many times. But these 2 days, Drizzle Building was a bit annoyed, because there were more professional killers hiding in the dark. They would appear from time to time and disappear after killing a few members. Damn it! In a cave somewhere in the headquarters, Drizzle Building's second in command, the ace killer codenamed Scorpion, slammed the stone table and said angrily, "Who is it that is secretly attacking us?" As an assassin organization, their members were assassinated one after another. Anyone with a bit of temper would definitely not be able to stand it. Moreover, Drizzle Building had very few killers, so it was very difficult to train them. Not to mention dozens of deaths, even 3 to 5 deaths would be a great loss. There were 3 ace killers in the cave. Their codenames were Viper, Mountain Cat, and Black Eagle. The 4 of them were the Drizzle Building's leaders' left and right arms. Other than special missions, they would usually stay in the headquarters and be in charge of all kinds of missions. The ace killer named Viper said in a deep voice. The dead members were all pierced through their heads or chests by some kind of power. It should be a very powerful hidden weapon. Not long ago on Spirit Spring Mountain, Ironbone's disciple used a hidden weapon called God-powered flaming gun to intimidate a few Wuzong. Mountain Cat guessed. Could the person hiding in the dark be using this thing? It's possible. Black Eagle said. Scorpion said angrily. If that's the case, the one hiding in the dark is Ironbone. Our Drizzle Building sent out assassins one after another, but they couldn't get rid of the leader. They dared to send people to assassinate our people. They are too bold. Second brother, they are hiding in the dark while we are out in the open. We are too passive. Black Shadow said with a face full of murderous intent. Why don't we bring our brothers to Ironbone and wipe them out? Young man, you are too naive. Since sect leader Jun dared to assassinate us, he had already activated the sect protection array and ordered his disciples not to go out. If you send assassins over, not only will it be a wasted trip, you might even become live targets and be killed by Xiao Ziji one by one. Sigh. Viper shook his head. I already said that the mission to assassinate Ironbone's leader can't be accepted without the agreement of the leader. Now look, we have met a tough opponent and lost so many of our members. Scorpion's face darkened. He accepted the mission to assassinate Jun Changshao after receiving money from the Spirit Spring sect. But at that time, he didn't think that a ninth-rate sect's leader would be so difficult to deal with. Not only did he fail repeatedly, he even lost a few gold medal assassins. Pung! Another explosion came from outside. The four of them didn't need to think. There must be another member who was ambushed. Pa! Black Eagle slammed the table and said angrily, "Second brother, I will take people out and catch that guy." Viper said, "You must be careful." Black Eagle put on his night clothes, equipped with all kinds of hidden weapons, and left the headquarters with more than 10 assassins that he trained. On the opposite side of the cave, on a tree a few hundred meters away, Jun Changshao took a bite of an apple. While chewing, he smiled and said, "Peak martial disciple, the big fish finally came out." Chapter 129. More than 10 assassins came out of the cave. Jun Changshao, who was wearing a pair of sunglasses, relied on the detection function to capture all of their strength. Without a doubt, that peak martial disciple was one of the 4 ace assassins of Drizzle Building. Sha sha sha. Xiao Ziji came out from the bushes, stood under the tree and said in a low voice, "Sect leader, we killed another one." Jun Changshao took a bite of the apple, threw it casually and said, "Give me the gun." Xiao Ziji threw the Type 88 sniper rifle. Shwa! Jun Changshao caught the sniper rifle, held it with one hand, leaned his head towards the 8x scope, and aimed at Black Eagle's body. He decided to get rid of one of Drizzle Building's ace assassins first, to make him more afraid and more desperate. Should I lock the head or lock the chest? Jun Changshao thought for a while and said, "In any case, he is a small leader of Drizzle Building. Give him a decent death." Confirmed, lock the chest. Pung! The bullet shot out, flying straight. The black shadow that just came out of the cave heard the movement. His pupils contracted, and a strong aura of death instantly filled his heart. Boom! The bullet hit the target directly. Jun Changshao's mouth raised into a smile, but the next second his smile froze. Through the scope, he clearly saw that the moment the bullet got close to the guy, it was blocked by a barrier similar to a formation. What's going on? The system said. The opponent has a defensive treasure that formed a barrier and blocked the bullet. Yes. The oval-shaped flowing light barrier around the Black Eagle was activated by a treasure known as the Spirit Formation Compass. Boundary Compass. Mid-grade defensive treasure. The owner could infuse their thoughts into it and instantly activate the barrier, enveloping themselves and forming an indestructible defense. The Boundary Compass was accidentally obtained by Black Eagle after he assassinated the target of the mission, and then he kept it with him in case of emergency. After hearing the gunshot and feeling the aura of death, he didn't hesitate to activate the barrier, which was why he was able to block the bullet. Fortunately, the shooting distance was far away, which gave him a few tenths of a second to activate the barrier. If he had been 200 or 300 meters closer, he definitely wouldn't have had the chance to activate the barrier. Although the Boundary Compass was able to block the flowing photon bullet, the location where it was bombarded was already in a shattered state. Plop! Black Eagle sat paralyzed on the ground, cold sweat trickling down his forehead, and a chill ran down his spine. In a fraction of a second, he had experienced life and death. Assassins were not afraid of death, but to personally experience the feeling of the Grim Reaper brushing past one's shoulder, it would definitely leave one with a rich aftertaste. Boom! Jun Changshao pulled the trigger again, and a stream photon bullet shot out. Black Eagle, who thought that he had just walked out of the gates of hell, heard the explosion. His scalp suddenly exploded, and the thought of death that had just fallen rose up again. It was even more intense than before. It's over. No, it's not over. I want to live. A strong desire to survive rose in his heart, forcing him to remove the broken barrier. He suddenly grabbed at his subordinates, obviously wanting to pull them in front of him. His subordinates could die. I can't die. However, could the speed of pulling someone out be faster than a bullet shot from a sniper rifle? It was obviously impossible, so he did not pull his subordinates over, and did not form a shield to block the bullet. With a boom, his chest was mercilessly pierced through. Black Eagle lowered his head stiffly, and looked at his chest that was pierced through. His eyes gradually became unfocused and finally his body fell down. He was one of the 4 ace assassins of Drizzle Building, and had carried out more than 500 assassination missions. His killing methods were mostly to pierce the target's chest with his sharp fingers like an eagle's claws, and then pull out the heart before ruthlessly crushing it. Every time he held the burning and beating heart of the person he killed, he would always ask with a ferocious expression, "You who have no heart, how does it feel? How does it feel?" Black Eagle did not understand in the past, but now he understood. Because his heart was directly shattered by the flowing light, that feeling was incomparably painful, and it also had the pain of tearing every inch of his skin. An assassin who killed people for fun had his heart shattered with a single shot. It was exactly the same as the old saying cause and effect retribution. On a distant tree, Jun Changshao said indifferently, "There's nothing that can't be solved with a single shot. If there is, then 2 shots. Boss." The assassins who witnessed Black Eagle's death cried out sorrowfully. But they were like stray dogs, completely ignoring their boss's corpse, and rushed towards the cave one by one. "Want to leave?" Pung! 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 Jun Changshao fired 7 shots consecutively, and used up all the bullets in his magazine. Only then was he unable to bear the recoil, and was directly sent flying. As for the more than 10 assassins who ran towards the cave, 7 of them were killed on the spot. Shwa! Shwa! At the same time, the dozens of assassins who were in charge of searching around heard the gunshots and rushed over. But they did not see Jun Changshao and Xiao Ziji, and only saw a half-eaten apple on the ground. Black Eagle, one of the 4 ace assassins of Drizzle Building, had his heart pierced through, and his evil life ended. After Scorpion and the other 2 heard about it, they were furious. Although assassins did not care about emotions, Black Eagle was still an ace assassin, and one of the elders of Drizzle Building, and they had worked together for a long time. Just as they left the cave, he was killed by someone in the dark. This was really unacceptable. Ah! Scorpion hugged his head and roared, "I must catch that guy. I must tear him into pieces." Viper said calmly, "Black Eagle had a defensive treasure, but he was still killed. The power of that hidden weapon is really terrifying. We must not act rashly. Old 3, quickly send the order to withdraw all the subordinates outside. Without orders, no one is allowed to leave the headquarters." Okay. Lynx hurriedly left, and used a special communication method to inform the assassins outside to return to the headquarters in a very short time. If it was like this from the beginning, there would not be too much loss. Unfortunately, Jun Changshao didn't allow Xiao Zueji to fire recklessly, because he wanted to give them the impression that the enemy was only capable of sneak attacks, and could be killed as soon as they were caught. That was why he constantly sent people out to search for them. In the cave, Jun Changshao grimaced in pain, as he rubbed the shoulder where the gun hit him. The numbness and pain only dissipated after a long time. With his cultivation as an 8th grade martial disciple, and the strength of his body, he could take 2 or 3 shots with the Type 88 sniper rifle. But it would definitely not work if the number of shots increased. Xiao Ziji looked at the sect leader with a face full of admiration. Just now the view was extremely good, and it was daytime. He clearly saw the sect leaders follow up 7 shots in one go, and all 7 assassins were killed. Oh my god! This spear technique was simply too godly. Xiao Ziji clenched his fist, and said with a firm gaze, "Sect leader, I will train harder, and soon I will be able to master such godly spear techniques like yours." Jun Changshao's mouth twitched, and said to himself, Once this goal is set, I'm afraid it will be far in the future. The next day, he did not let Xiao Ziji continue the operation, because the other side had lost one of their leaders. They must have realized that the problem was bigger than they thought. Right now, they should be like frightened rats, hiding in the hole and not daring to come out. Jun Changshao rubbed his temples and murmured, "Next, we should think about how to kill all the rats in the hole." He thought of many ideas. For example, blocking the hole with smoke, or drawing the water from the waterfall to directly flood the rat hole. But he gave up on all of them, because if there was another exit, it would only waste time. Drizzle Building headquarters, Scorpion and Viper, were also discussing how to find the person in the dark. After all, hiding in the cave was not a solution. Link said, "When night comes, I will take a few subordinates out from the back door and quietly search. This method is feasible." Viper agreed. "We underestimated the enemy at the beginning and sent out too many people, giving the other side an opportunity. If we split up and make full use of our advantages, we can definitely find them." Chapter 130. The forest at night was even more eerie and scary. In the pitch-black night, one could faintly hear the sound of wind breaking. It was Mountain Cat and the 4 gold-ranked assassins. They fully displayed the Dark Spectre's power. At this time, even Xiao Ziji, who was outside the cave, could not see them with his scope, because in the night, his vision was greatly affected. The assassins of Drizzle Building who walked in the dark were definitely very professional. This was also their advantage, but because they could not stand being assassinated in the beginning, they were not able to use it well. Sha sha sha. Mountain Cat and the 4 gold-ranked assassins spread out, searching the area with a clear goal. At this rate, they would only need around 2 hours to find the cave where Jun Changshao was staying. Goo goo dash. In the dark night, the occasional bird call could be heard. In such a dark environment, it sounded a little creepy. Sitting cross-legged in the cave, Jun Changshao cultivated the body metamorphose scripture while thinking about how to destroy the Drizzle Building. "Are there any items like grenades in the market?" he asked. The system said, "Yes, but it has to be refreshed." Jun Changshao muttered, "If this thing is refreshed, I can just buy it and throw it into the rat hole. Wouldn't that be great?" In his opinion, since there were grenades in the market, their power would definitely be stronger than normal grenades. Not to mention a cave, it would not be a problem to blow up a mountain, right? The last time it refreshed, only the dazzling light sunglasses had value. The others were not that useful, so it was necessary to refresh. He opened the status panel and fiercely scrolled down. Ding! Sect contribution points, 300500. A new item appeared. Jun Changshao looked carefully, but did not find any grenades, but unexpectedly obtained a sword technique manual called Ling Jian Divine Technique. He clicked on the introduction item. Ling Jian Divine Technique Introduction. A sword technique created by a sword emperor of a certain world. There are a total of 3 styles. They are 1-word quick technique, 2-word force technique, and 3-word chi transformation technique. Effect. The first style can form a cold and swift sword chi. The second style can form a sword force. The third style can form a sword chi. The third style can form a rainbow sword chi, beheading people from 1,000 miles away. Strength. Martial disciple can cultivate it. As one's cultivation of the martial way and sword way increases, its power will increase as well. It can be used as a main sword technique to comprehend. Weakness. Although it is easy to learn, it is difficult to master. Price. 100 contribution points. Grade. High Divine Grade Sword Art. Fuck. Looking at the grade introduction, Jun Changshao couldn't be bothered with his cultivation. Swoosh! He jumped to his feet exclaiming, "High Divine Grade Sword Art!" The system said dogs hit luck. Coming across a high-grade Divine Grade Sword Art with the intention of farming grenades, Huang Xiaolong's luck was unparalleled. Jun Changshao calmed down and rubbed his chin. "It's a little expensive," the system said. The chances of obtaining a high-grade divine-grade martial skill is lower than a sniper rifle. If you think it's too expensive, you don't have to buy it. Jun Changxiao was puzzled. It's the same 100 contribution points. But why is the probability of a divine-grade martial arts technique lower than a sniper rifle? The system said, the sniper rifle is just a modified product. It's effective at lower levels. But once you encounter a martial king or above, it's almost useless. Why is it useless? Jun Changxiao wanted to get to the bottom of it. The system explained, martial king level powerhouses have formed spiritual awareness and can spy within a certain range. Even if it's a tiny speck of dust, you can definitely catch it when you fire. I have self-aiming, so what if I catch it? Jun Changxiao said nonchalantly. The system said, martial kings not only have spiritual awareness, they can also materialize their spiritual energy to form a defensive wall. It's hard to break through with the sniper rifle's damage alone. You can use high-quality crystal cores as bullets. Firearms are just modified products. Does the host expect to use them as rocket launchers? I understand. You mean sniper rifles are less useful at higher levels, but rocket launchers can be used. The system, the host's brain circuits were not on the same line as its own. Let me put it this way. The store's guns are just modified products. If you want to become stronger in the world of martial arts, you have to rely on various martial arts techniques, because they are far more powerful than firearms. I see. Jun Changxiao complained. If you had explained earlier, I would have understood. The system said. So you're blaming me? If I don't blame you, then blame me? Jun Changxiao said. The system couldn't help but say, fuck you. Fuck you. Jun Changxiao said. The system even cursed. Who designed this unscrupulous product? The system not only cursed, it also had a temper. It repeated important things 3 times. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Fuck, if you were alone, I'd definitely beat you up. Come, I'm in your mind. If you have the guts, punch me in the head. You really think I don't dare? Xiao Zueji, who was outside, heard the commotion. He turned his head and looked over. He could vaguely see the sect leader inside the cave with his hand on his forehead. Puzzled, he asked, is he cultivating? Phew. Jun Changxiao sat down, shook his head, then pressed the purchase button. Ding! The host has spent 100 contribution points. Received Lingjian Divine Technique X1. It has been transferred to the space ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 200500. He knew that the system was telling him that in a high-level martial arts world, martial arts were the most important. Not to mention 100 contribution points. Even if he spent all his contribution points, he would still buy it. Moreover, the third move of the sword technique was to behead someone from 1,000 miles away. If he could really comprehend it, it would definitely be comparable to an intercontinental missile. After it entered the space ring, Jun Changxiao held the few pages of the sword technique in his hand. He flipped to the first page. It said, comprehending the sword for 6,000 years. At the moment of breaking through the void, looking back on the path of this life, all sorts of feelings welled up in my heart. Thus, I created this sword technique and left it for the future generations. I hope it will be carried forward and spread the name of the Solitary Sword Emperor. Solitary Sword Emperor? The first person Jun Changxiao thought of was Dugu Qiubai. The system said, look carefully. He is solitary, not Dugu. Oh right. Jun Changxiao rubbed his chin and said, this senior must be very lonely, right? Forget it, let's cultivate first. He flipped to the second page. The chants and sword moves were displayed. Jun Changxiao squatted in the space ring, frowning from time to time with his head lowered, as if he was constipated. Ah! After a while, he hugged his head and said, this is a bit profound. The system poured cold water on him and said, this is a high-level divine sword technique. Without a divine spirit root and talent in the sword Dao, the chances of the host comprehending it is 0. I don't believe it. Jun Changxiao opened the system interface and clicked on the purchased items section. He bought the Talisman of Insight that had reached its refresh time. Ding! Host spent 10 contribution points. Received Elementary Talisman of Insight X1. It has been transferred to the space ring. Ding! Sect contribution points. 190500. System. Pa Jun Changshao crushed the talisman of insight and immediately entered the state of comprehension. He flipped to the second page of the sword technique and began to comprehend it. Needless to say, he did not succeed. The system gloated. The talisman of insight cannot be used to comprehend the martial arts purchased from the store. Fuck. Jun Changshao finally remembered and said, "When I bought it, why didn't you tell me when I used it? You made me so angry that I forgot." The system said. Jun Changshao's little heart suddenly hurt. After all, that was 10 contribution points. Since he bought it, then he bought it. It did not matter. However, he could not comprehend it and had to use it. This was definitely a huge waste. Jun Changshao, who thought that he could comprehend the sword technique by using the talisman of insight, had suffered a double loss. Sigh. He had no choice but to continue comprehending it. Speaking of which, it was strange. He could not understand the sword technique at first, but after staring at it for more than 10 minutes, he gradually understood it. The more he looked, the more enlightened he became. Shua, taking out the cold-edged sword. According to the chant, he channeled his spirit energy into the sword and waved it lightly. Instantly, a sword light was formed. "This is it done?" Jun Changshao said in surprise. The system said, "Ling Jian's divine art is easy to learn but hard to master. The host is still thousands of miles away from mastering it." Jun Changshao was too lazy to care about it and turned to the third page. Sect Master. At this time, Xiao Ziji rushed in and said in a low voice, "I keep feeling that there are people outside." Oh. Jun Changshao walked out and found that it was pitch black all around. There was nothing unusual. He reached out his hand and said, "Give me the gun." Shua. Xiao Ziji handed over the Type 88 sniper rifle. Jun Changshao raised the gun and looked at the 8x scope. He used 5 contribution points to activate the self-aiming and X-ray function. After looking around half a circle, he caught sight of 5 assassins 2 kilometers away. There really were people. Wearing the sunglasses and using the 8x scope's X-ray function, he saw that one of them was a peak martial disciple. Jun Changshao smiled coldly. Another big fish came out. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.